Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Parks and Rec Commission regular meeting agenda, December 11th, 2025, 7 p.m. First off, can we have a flag salute? We'll have our new commissioner here lead us in our flag salute. Okay, thank you very much. And again, welcome to our commission. Anna, can we do a roll call, please?
Yes. Chair Flores,
Present.
Vice Chair Ruiz,
Present.
Secretary Esquivel,
Present.
Commissioner Pelayo,
Present.
and our new Commissioner Trujillo.
Present.
Okay, pursuant to Government Code Section 54952.3, compensation for monthly attendance by the Parks and Recreation Commissioners is $75 per monthly meeting. Report on posting. I, Ana Medina, Executive Assistant to the Parks Director, certify that a true and correct copy of the foregoing meeting agenda was properly posted on December 4th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. as required by law.
Thank you. If we've all read the minutes, if there's no comments, can I get a motion to receive the minutes?
This is Liz. I so move. I second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to open up the meeting to public comment. If we have anybody from the audience that has a public comment, they're welcome to come to the mic at this time. Please state your name.
Okay, thank you. My name is Esri Cortez. I'm a 20-year resident of Southgate and first-year volunteer coach for AYSO. I have a written statement I'd like to read from. First and foremost, we would like to thank you for your efforts in securing field access at Southgate Park. It was a tremendous help for our team, and we truly appreciate it. Thank you very much. We were recently informed that there are no practice fields available for us, and we're extremely disappointed. As Southgate residents and participants in a long-standing youth soccer program, it is discouraging to see our kids being treated differently compared to other youth organizations. If this situation involved your own children, we believe you too would be concerned about the inequality. It is also not fair that our programs has had to rent fields and pay out of pocket at SoFi goals just so that our children can have a place to safely practice. Additionally, we would like clarification on how the region is expected to place 150 kids on only 2 fields for 5 versus 5 games. This is neither practical nor safe for the players. All city-funded resources should be distributed fairly among youth programs. Since we have not been granted field access, we have been resorting to running around the park. Meanwhile, our players have noticed groups such as small baseball group of 9 kids practicing on available fields. It becomes difficult to explain to our children why our program is not permitted to use the same spaces. We would like to thank city officials, particularly Joshua Barron, for speaking with us recently at Holidale Park. Our hope is simply to return to the system that existed before the pandemic, when we had access to practice fields at Southgate Park from October through February. We look forward to working with the new deputy director to help resolve this issue and ensure equitable treatment for all youth programs. Thank you again for your time, and we wish you happy holidays.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment? Do we have any emails?
Yes, I have an email from Mr. Mario Dominguez that he is not happy with the utility user tax. He feels he doesn't trust the council members. So he's not happy that that is something the city is looking into doing. Then he also sent another email regarding the street soccer. He is concerned with the development that this will have on the overall park master plan for Hollydale Regional Park. He doesn't want to lose any single park features or amenity as a result of this development. Then he also sent an email regarding the park survey. He is not happy with the results of the survey. He feels that it's less than 500 people replied, and that he feels it should have been a lot more since there is a population of 95,000 people in Southgate. Then he also sent an email regarding the past council meeting that outgoing Mayor Maria Davila received a recognition plaque, and he feels that that she did not merit that recognition. And that is all.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other public comment, we'll close public comment at this time. We'll move on to our presentations. We're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to start with street soccer and then go on to our city budget and fiscal future.
So, real quick, so I just want to introduce Luca from Street Soccer USA. He's going to give a presentation for you tonight.
Hello, good evening. My name is Luca Marton. I'm the director of Street Soccer USA Los Angeles chapter, and I'm humbled and grateful that you guys are willing to hear me tonight. Do we have the presentation up?
I'll fill in a little bit as the city manager, Rob Houston, city manager for the city, and give a little background of this. The work that's gone on that we've been talking with Street Soccer USA for several months. And so I've been involved with that. We've been, as AYSO soccer folks have mentioned, they've been playing soccer for many, many years at the Hollydale Regional Park, which is a great park, but does not have lighting. It is not a park that's open past dusk. Has never been. So there's always been a gap for AYSO in like this time of year when it's dark. And so we were looking at solutions. Pricing for lighting is very, very high. We're not, as you'll learn in the next presentation, we're not in a position to have funding to do anything, let alone even maintain what we're doing now. So we have that dilemma. So we were trying to brainstorm creative ideas. And coincidentally, we were contacted by Street Soccer USA, who is looking for a site for a facility that could provide some soccer space, not a huge field. It's their footprint. They're looking to add these facilities in communities to provide services, as you'll hear. They pay for it, they operate it. So obviously, they dictate how big it is and the use is focused not on AYSO, it's not focused on city facilities, but as part of their purpose and their mission, they do want to see where they can partnership these facilities and help where possible with additional programs that are around them. But the focus of their service is to provide service to our community in their format. And because they could build it on their own, and we're looking at a potential site that does not impact current fields, and they could add some lighting for their fields at their cost. We thought it's worth meriting further discussion. They've had a chance to meet with AYSO. They've talked about partnering in a generous way, I believe. And so as staff, we're feeling comfortable this is something that we could support. We think AYSO can support, but now we wanted to bring it to the Parks Commission and ultimately the council to get your take on this. So I thought I'd give you that background until we're ready with your presentation, which is now. I'll kick it back to Street Soccer USA. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that context. And yes, that's absolutely correct. We don't look to replace any type of AYSO programs. In fact, we look to complement and supplement their opportunities to resources. So as you can see, we're part of an initiative called the 26 for 26 initiative, which is part of the World Cup's Visa's drive to be developing equitable spaces across the country. And we have landed on Southgate in Los Angeles for a number of reasons. One is, I think we all know how prohibitive the cost of soccer can be when it shouldn't be. We know that space is a premium and it is limited, and we would like to do anything that we can to enhance the accessibility and equitability of that space to the community. So as City Manager Houston had just mentioned, we do plan on partnering very closely with AYSO and offering this space in a prioritized capacity to them to schedule their practices. Yes, ma'am. Beautiful, thank you. So I say all that just to say we have no intention of usurping AYSO. We have no intention of taking any of their participants. We really look to build this park for AYSO during their preferred hours. And then in the hours that they are not in operation, we would be offering an entirely free space and service to ages really 2 years old to 17 years old, and then free pickup for adult populations who find that necessary. Now, our vision is to fight poverty and strengthen communities through soccer. We do have a strong SEL curriculum that we adhere to through our 8 street soccer skills. We are in dozens of schools across 5 districts in the county. We currently run 4 free, what we call community club programs in the public housing developments in Watts, which span Imperial Courts, Jordan Downs, Nickerson Gardens, and Gonzack Village. And we look to implement that same model in an environment that might not be as untraditional as the developments in Watts, but does have a need for the space. As was referenced before, it may not be possible for Southgate to fund lights and new field space, but we find this as a opportune time to come in and partner directly with AYSO so that this can be a mutually beneficial relationship. AYSO can retain the fields at any time that they would like. I'll sit down with the leaders and we'll build out a schedule together to prioritize who has already been here, and the community will always come first. So I'll go to the next slide here. We have programming across the country, as I mentioned before, but we really are focused in LA. I live in LA. My team behind me lives in LA. We've been working here for the better half of a decade. We are here for long-term engagement, and we are here really for the betterment of the community. We do not seek revenue or profit. We are a nonprofit organization. And the number one thing that we want to do is provide increased access to high quality, low to no cost play. And either that's with AYSO during their hours, and outside of their hours, it will be to the community at large. It is in my opinion, a net positive, utilizing a space that previously is, I believe, housing mulch and other organic material. So it wouldn't be taking any other space. And I'll say it a ton of times throughout this presentation, I'm so excited for AYSO to be able to use this space to the fullest capacity possible. The more kids playing, the better. And that is really our only goal in this, is to continue to expand access. we have all these words in this presentation. I'm not a big presentation guy, but so I'm not going to sit here and read it to you. But one of the main things is that the World Cup, the Olympics, and the Women's World Cup are coming up. And we have a number of really exciting opportunities to partner with our funder, who is Visa, with their financial literacy program and Visa-sanctioned viewing parties. So we will be having opportunities to give back to the community in a variety of ways, whether that's through those viewing parties or through free tickets to the World Cup games, which would include opportunities for youth to be mascots who walk out onto the pitch with the professional players during the World Cup. We have about 10 to 12 tickets that we would allocate to the Southgate community to do so. The additional benefits to the park is that, as I mentioned before, we are in about 30 schools across 5 districts, one of which is our closest partner, Hollydale Elementary and Middle School. We currently run twice-a-week programming for their elementary and middle school all year round through the Paramount School District, and we would love to utilize this space for after-school programming, tournament play, but only during the school day and the school year. And if it was to ever conflict with AYSO, I again would sit down with AYSO and more than likely almost always give priority. We would look at this as a full-on partnership. I played AYSO growing up. I understand the importance of the organization to the community. We look to only strengthen and supplement what they are already doing and making their programming more accessible. Not only will we not take away potential participants from their play, we would act as a funnel and we would hopefully increase their attendance and engagement, and we could act in unison and in two-step with each other. These are the components of the park, so you can take a quick moment. I think it's an important point here that this is not necessarily an infrastructure build, it's more of an installation. If you look at the middle corridor here, there's one piece at the doorway that goes into the ground. Everywhere else is built around, and the light fixtures are affixed to the wall system, and it's put together more or less like a puzzle piece. So these can be taken down and put up relatively quickly. The lead time where we'll have to do site prep and things of that nature, which we've already assessed the land for, would be about 3 months while we wait for the materials to be shipped from overseas. They'll be coming from Germany. In that 3 months, we will do our site prep, we'll get prepared, we will do community outreach. I'm happy, I'm as transparent as anybody could be. I'm open to anybody taking my phone number, collaborating with me with this, because as I mentioned, our work in Watts for the last 7 years, it was met with a lot of apprehension. I mean, some guy comes in and says, I want to build this thing, it's going to be good for you. Eyebrows raise. And it's like, why should we trust that? Well, we do have, and I understand that. You'd be crazy not to. So anything that sounds too good to be true usually is. And that's a difficult thing to come up here and say, like, oh, well, trust me, doesn't this look cool? No, I know. And I am asking for a bit of trust. But that trust is off the back of very successful community work that we've consistently done over the better course of a decade right next door in Watts. And I will keep an open door. I'm happy to work with AYSO. I'm happy to work with any concerned community members. I'm happy to work with this committee because we are as flexible as you guys need us to be. This really is from our perspective, a gift to the community. And that doesn't just mean, hey, here's the thing. That means everything that comes with it. That means scheduling, that means event coordination. We look at ourselves as servants to the communities that we are in. And the second that we stop living up to that, I'll be the person that you come to, and we will make it right. We've done it time and time again in Los Angeles County, but also across the country. So as you see here, it's a 10,000 square foot park. We have a converted shipping container, which is a digital media learning center, but will also be a place for employment services. We almost exclusively hire our coaches from within the community. In Watts, we hire for our community clubs from matriculated participants. So when you graduate high school or you turn 18, you don't just leave our programs. You have an opportunity to come right into with us and start coaching for $20 to $25 an hour, up to $40 an hour. We have coaches right now who started with us as participants who are making $30 an hour coaching on our after-school programs and coaching in the communities where they grew up. This is of paramount importance to what we're trying to do, because we are dedicated to this being an autonomous community project. I am from New York. You could probably tell I don't sound like an Angelino, but the reality is I understand what it looks like for a community to be taken and to turn into something that it wasn't what it was when you grew up. We are here in a preservation capacity. We want to make sure that we are putting the keys in the hands of the people, of the children, the youth, and their families to take over these programs when I am gone, when my team is gone. And hopefully in 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, when we want to build another park, you're talking to one of the Southgate participants who is now a matriculated staff member who's pitching the same thing. That's really what the goal here is. And I know I can talk until I'm blue in the face. Once you see it, you will believe it. And unfortunately, I can't show it to you right now, but please come out to Watts any day of the week and see what we're doing, and you'll see it's a real deal. And you'll see that kids are playing and it's being run by the community. Another important part here is, of course, the lighting system for evening play. We've seen all the numbers on violence and crime mitigation when you start lighting outdoor spaces. We would love for that to be another opportunity for AYSO to continue their programs throughout the winter. This would also potentially expand the access to all year for AYSO, and I would happily give up that 6 to 8 p.m. slot for those groups in a moment. If that's what it meant to keep this project moving forward, then that's what it will be. Another really important part here is that this 2-field footprint does have removable walls, so it could turn into one large field. Granted, I completely take the gentleman's public opinion before very seriously about 5-a-side does not replace an AYSO full-side field. In no world. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. But it's better than nothing. And it is something that wasn't there before that could be there now and will only supplement what they have and could be the start of something new. Could be the start of generating more excitement and energy around lighting the space and building more safe spaces for AYSO moving forward. This is what we hope that it will look like. This is the space that I'm referencing. That is the Digital Media Learning Center on the right. As you can see, right above north of the tennis courts, not much going on there. So it's not like we are going to be taking space that would otherwise be utilized by AYSO programs. We are using an entirely underutilized space as it pertains to sport and extracurricular activity, and we are only enhancing it. So again, see this as a net positive, and it would only be the southern half of that space. So most of that mulch and dirt would be moved to the northern half, and again, would be accessible not only to the AYSO groups, but when AYSO is not using the space, this is a free community space that's going to come with high-level activation services. We will have coaches that are highly trained, are really good at what they do, work with all age groups that in some cases from the 2 to 7-year-old age group, say even 2 to 5-year-old age group. Some people pay thousands of dollars for a season through organizations like Soccer Shots and Super Soccer Stars. We have that same level of ability and capability and capacity to run these programs that would only add something that the community does not currently have and would act as a feeder into the AYSO system and into the Southgate community. Please, if there are any questions while I go through, don't hesitate to ask. This learning center could also be used and is used as an after-school tutoring hub where our coaches will be staffed to not only help with homework, to help with social and emotional issues, but also to help maintain some of the park amenities, whether that's doing things as on the ground as cleaning the bathrooms. I plan on cleaning a few bathrooms doing this. I plan on getting my hands dirty, and when we go somewhere, we are very cognizant of the fact that we are humble guests and we want to leave somewhere better than when we got there. And we really hope that this can be the start of a beautiful relationship in Southgate that is connected through the school district, and that we can continue to run high quality programs and partner with the community in a genuine and authentic fashion. I mentioned a little bit about this before, but these are some of our parks in San Francisco and in Harlem. This is just kind of what it ends up looking like when all is said and done. Visa will come out and do a ribbon cutting and an orientation where they will come on to do viewing parties and celebrate with the community. But this is really in anticipation of the 26 World Cup, but it by no means exclusive to the 26 World Cup. As I alluded to before, we've got a lot of global events coming up, including the Olympics, of course, but also the Women's FIFA World Cup. And we look to be long-term partners that we invest in not just a physical space, but into positions of employment, into community activism. We really want to be a meaningful part and not somebody who takes. We are here to give. And if that giving does not look the way that it's supposed to look, we are open to pivot and adjust at any point. One of our 8 street soccer skills is adjust your play. And if that's the case where somebody thinks that we're going about things in a way that maybe not preferable to them, we will be open to any type of feedback. I will work with Maria from AYSO. I'll work with Rob from the city manager. I'll work with anybody to make this be as genuine of a Southgate community project as possible. This is what our steps and timeline would look like. Weeks 1, 2, and 3 would be that we would grade and add aggregate to the site. Week 4, we would install FIFA grade turf. This is a high quality installation. Weeks 5 and 6, we would install the walls, goals, netting, light poles. That would all take 1 week. And then we would mount the lighting fixtures, run electrical from the source to the container and the poles, and install the clubhouse. And then weeks 6 and 7, we would install temporary signage, connect electric, and do the final punch list.
Are the fields going to be artificial turf or grass?
Artificial turf. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your question. This is a little bit of information about what we engage and activate nationwide. Our community club programs are free-to-play programs. We engage nearly 50,000 participants across the country. Our school leagues, as I mentioned, school leagues, because these are not competitive or competing leagues to rec leagues. These are during school district-wide leagues, so they would be between the hours of noon and 4:30 during the week. We have about 16,000 participants. Recess and other community use, we have 140,000 plus. And then we have Park League play and events, which would be adult open play. But again, these are things that once I sit down with the AYSO leadership and we draw out their schedule, whatever time is left over, we will then figure out how to open it up to what the needs of the rest of the community are. The community is not all youth. You know, maybe there's an over 60 league that wants to participate. We do walking soccer in some parts of the country. We do work with groups that are disabled. We have special needs and adaptive play. The opportunities are quite endless. And as long as we prioritize the groups that are already on the ground, after that, we would just look for your support to give us the green light to activate the space for all the other groups who would be looking to play, again, for free. We are not like a Goals or SoFi, bless them. I play there myself, but we don't collect revenue. A group coming in and playing will never be displaced by one of our groups because, like I said, we will already figure out that schedule ahead of time and no revenue will be there to be cut into. Now, these long-term impact targets, there's something that I've seen personally and anecdotally, but we also have, combined with this budget that we have for it, we will be having impact reports, which will aim to do what we've already seen, which is improve physical and mental health, increase self-esteem and self-efficacy, improve relationship building skills, clear purpose and connection to opportunities. What's not listed here is mitigating chronic absenteeism, mitigating community violence, keeping kids off the street if we're able to keep the lights on into the evenings. So the long-term impacts, to me, are clear. I think anybody here who has seen sport and youth know how important it is. And this, again, would just be a supplemental resource to the community. That's it. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. You did mention the Visa viewing party, so I'm guessing Visa is your right. You mentioned your partner. What sort of rights would Visa have on the field as a partner?
The only rights that they would have would be the rights to show the games from the World Cup. They would have no governing or authority rights over programming or operations of the field.
And is the digital space also available for AYSO as use? Obviously,
Everything will be available to AYSO as a use.
Any other questions? I just have one question, maybe for you, Mr. City Manager. Is there any issues with the utility company operating their Halladale Park? Or
With
building in
utility as
Halladale
far
Park?
as the electricity draw?
No, the power lines and the
Yeah,
park property itself.
Yeah, we've done a general review of the site. There is a distance you can't be directly under the power lines. You have to be a certain distance away. And that look has been looked at. And so we feel comfortable the location can work. And then also there is enough electricity. They're using LED lighting, which doesn't draw too much. So we
Right.
think there's sufficient draw for that use as well. So yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I know in the past, there've been issues with that where the use of the property has to get approved by the utility company or something
Yes,
like that.
and we very cognizant. It took a long time to think about siting because there are a lot of limitations on that property. One other piece that isn't part of so much what they would bring to the table, but a piece that would be required from a procedural process for this would be looking at the hours of operations of Hollydale Regional, currently a dawn to dusk park. So any operations that would stray past that would require there needing to be a new designation for the park, which I don't have that off the top of my head what that procedure is, but we'd have to bring forward the preparation of a document to propose it become a park with hours past dusk. And that would have to be a conversation that would come back to the commission and the council to approve. That's probably the main change that isn't part of this proposal, but we'd need to handle internally.
And theoretically speaking, if that was to not go through, we would still be very interested in operating the park inside of the operating hours currently, and hope to lobby for those changes in the future. My colleague mentioned to me that to your question before, that the mulch that's used for the turf is non-toxic, of course, so there are no health issues there. There's another portion that I failed to mention is that participation within street soccer activities also enters us into the street soccer ecosystem. So as you see, we're wearing Uniqlo gear. Uniqlo is a sponsor of ours. They offer employment opportunities to our programs at Priority as well upon graduation of our programming and of high school or a GED. They also offer biannual shopping sprees to about 15 to 30 of our participants a year. And that's something that comes with all of our free-to-play clubs that we would, of course, offer to AYSO.
Thank you. One last question. Is there, I can't remember off the top of my head, is there parking lot lighting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You had one question?
Yeah. I wanted to thank you for your interest in our city. I think this is a great opportunity to solve an issue that has been ongoing, which is, having space for AYSO. I personally grew up playing soccer, high school soccer, and even after. And I understand the plight for finding fields to play in. I wasn't in AYSO, but I was in more in just, other leagues doing pickup games and whatnot. But it's tough, and I also learned the hard way that you can't use any cleat on artificial turf. And so for anybody who's played soccer with will know that the fields get really hot. So and I am aware about the concerns with some of the artificial turf composure for the issues with volatile organic compounds and whatnot. So it's good to know that you guys are looking at other alternatives. But I guess that would be my question for any of the AYSO folks, if any of the youth are equipped with those types of shoes, and if there's any source of because I understand you guys are nonprofits. I don't know if that's something you guys help some of the youth kind of get. I know that you mentioned that the gear isn't cheap, and even me as a youth,
Could-
not having the
Could
money.
we ask his opinion? Do you have opinion about turf at all? Yeah.
Oh, if you could play in the mic so the
Can you come to the mic?
Personally, we have played at SoFi. I do understand that turf usually takes a different type of shoe, but I wouldn't have any real concern besides the fact that it's just a different type of shoe that one would have to be prepared for.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the program really doesn't have a problem playing on turf then?
Again, let's reconsider the fact that it's great what they're doing. I understand that. A 5 versus 5 field is still not. It doesn't suffice the need of AYSO, but it's definitely something that we would be, or maybe even leadership would be grateful for, right? They've said that they are willing to work a time frame from 6 to 8 that would allow potentially some teams to practice in a properly lighted space, but I think still we wouldn't be able to get all our teams in there regardless. But still, something is better rather than nothing, right?
Right.
Got it.
Thank you for your input.
Mhm.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and to that point as well, I think this transitions well back into the fact that the space can be modified to a 10v10 space when we put the two fields together. And we would allow that space such a regularity that we would get into a rhythm of figuring out how to kind of reconfigure the space for those evening practices so that it turns into something like clockwork. And yeah, I'm not under any delusion that this solves the problem of AYSO, but would I rather have a slice of nothing, a slice of the big pie, or a lot of nothing? I'd
Thank you.
rather have a slice.
Thank you for that.
There was one other thing that was mentioned here that is now crossing my mind, but I've lost it. So if it comes back, I'll bring it back up.
Okay. There's no other comments?
Oh, I'm sorry. It did come back. Shoes. So yes, we are a nonprofit, but as I mentioned, we have been operating in one of the poorest districts in the county for the last 7 years, and we often have participants coming with no shoe, no footwear at all. And we are right now in the process of working with the Housing Authority in the city of Los Angeles to provide us with 100 pairs of new futsal shoes. We've had a similar arrangement in the past with Nike, where they have provided us with 150 pairs of futsal shoes. I can't make any promises as to what that would look like in the future. What I can say is that our model has lent itself to the possibility of providing footwear where it's not accessible.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Cynthia.
Actually, this question is for Glenn. The mulch there, Glenn, how much would it be to remove it?
I don't know.
We have a turf assessor that came out and he assessed. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it would come out of our budget for site prep.
Thank you.
Edgar.
Yeah, just a few questions. What are some of the challenges that other communities brought up and you had to work around?
So challenges with pitches that have gone up.
Yes.
This would be the first one in Los Angeles County. Some of the barriers that I have known in the past, really the only ones that I've known, are unauthorized use during off hours. People like to find soft spaces to lay at night. That is pretty much the only community barrier that I have run into in the past. But we have a high rate of success amongst the builds of these pitches across the country. And so far, they're all still up in operation. We are long-term partners, and we continue to operate them 7 days a week and work with community partners at will. I haven't heard of any kind of community pushback or conflict. If I do, I'll let you know. But the one that I have heard of is use of vagrancy and things of that nature.
Okay.
Thank you.
And who is your, I think in the Hollandale area, that elementary that you're currently working with, I believe that's the only school that's there. Who else would be your target audience or target use?
So in that 3-month prep time, in a traditional capacity, when we would be looking to build a field, I would be using that 3 months to do outreach, to go really house to house and to leverage the school to find other participants that would be willing to come and play. In this case, the AYSO partnership kind of makes that null and void.
Right.
We don't need more kids to come and play. As a matter of fact, we kind of need the opposite. We don't want to fill up more parking spots. We don't want to overflow the space. So this has kind of provided itself as an opportunity for both groups to do and get what we want and need.
Yeah. The reason I ask, I know that in the past we've mentioned possibly bringing programming to Hollandale, and I believe the answer has been that there's lack of demand there. Just kind of wondering, if there's going to be enough, and whether or not AYSO would actually, really take part in this. That's really where the question's coming from.
Yeah, of course. So I can't speak to what AYSO has planned. All that I can speak to is our openness and ability to work with them in as transparent and proactive as a way as possible. What I do know is that the Hollydale Elementary and Middle School activations will not exclusively be for Hollydale. They would be for the contingency of elementary and middle schools within the Paramount School District that operate within the league that we operate with right now. So, for example, 3 times a year, we would hold a tournament for 10 schools in the Paramount School District, and Hollydale Elementary and Middle would theoretically host the tournament, and all those other schools would get bussed in for that particular event.
Okay. And for example, when I guess weekends are, I guess, tend to be pretty busy at that park, how do you see that playing out with the traffic that would be brought in by AYSO and then people that would attend your facility?
So to my understanding, AYSO has their games and tournaments on weekends. If they use the space at Hollydale Regional Park, we would just activate and engage the participants of AYSO's family members who are already coming, whether that be younger siblings, older parents, cousins, whoever it may be. We wouldn't go further out to promote further use of the space. We would look to utilize the already pre-existing engagement that would be there with that weekend activity.
Okay. And you mentioned prioritizing the use of the facility for AYSO, right? What would that look like? Would that be something that would be put in writing, or would that be something that would just be in Word, or how would that work?
That's something that I'd be certainly open to putting in writing. It's not something that we've discussed formally yet, but if that's something that makes all parties comfortable, I'd be happy to put any type of agreement formally so that we know that it's the real deal.
Okay. And, when you were speaking about some of the outreach that you would do with the community prior to setting up your facility, you mentioned that would be done, I guess, when everything would be en route to Southgate, right? Is that something that can be adjusted to do prior to even making any commitments with purchasing any equipment or anything like that?
I mean, yes, of course it could be done. I don't know if it's the most responsible thing to do, considering if it doesn't go through, I don't want to get the hopes of the community up of a state-of-the-art facility coming to their backyard and then having the measure fail and then have to kind of go back. I take promises, especially promises to community, very seriously. And even if it would be beneficial in the long run, if there's even a risk of it not going through, I hesitate to do that outreach preemptively.
Has there been any communication out to the community at this moment?
Not other than AYSO.
Okay. And what kind of timeline or time frame are we looking at here in terms of you guys being at the park?
Listen, I would love to be there forever. I'll be frank. We're looking at most of our models 10-year leases, and in some cases, 5-year leases with a contingency to expand at the 5-year mark. But I think it goes to what we do that anything less than 10 years doesn't really speak to our vision or our model. What can you get done if you don't see a child maturate from 5 to 15 years old? You know, I think everybody here has been around children enough to know that 10 years is the most important time that a child can have in their life. And if you're only there for a year or two, you're only getting a snapshot. So we really hope to be there at least 5 years, but 10 is the standard. And really, we would love to be having this conversation about a third or fourth field in 20 years.
Sure. And I guess this question would be a bit more towards you, Tina, regarding the master plan that's already in place, where there's a few fields already, some time and effort has been put into that. How would this impact that? And is there an opportunity cost there?
Well, in looking at the master plan, and I think in that space itself, there was supposed to be a gymnasium or something put there. So it wouldn't have any impact to the soccer fields that are currently on the master plan. It would impact the gym area that was supposed to be located there.
And the gym, is that something similar to the sports center at Southgate Park, or is it similar in size and use?
I think it's a little smaller because it's a smaller footprint there, but that's what's currently on the model.
So in a hypothetical situation where we were to acquire some grant money to fund that gymnasium and having Street Soccer USA there, how would that play out?
Yeah, we'd have to decide one of the two, or wait until the lease is up, or just figure out how to maneuver that.
Is it also possible that since we would only be using half of that space, that the other half could be utilized for the gymnasium space?
No, it's too small of a footprint.
Yeah.
I could just mention that I think we're a long way from ever getting grant money. If we do get grant money, it would probably in the plan itself. There's, I think, $40 million worth of improvements, of which include, say, lighting at the site, which could be millions of dollars, and other amenities. All those, I think, would be the priority over adding, say, a gymnasium, which creates a large staffing impact to our budget, and the grants will never cover the operating of something like that. So unless not only do we get grants, but we have some major surge in revenue, I think it'd be very tough to contemplate anytime in the near future. But it is something that we could look at, that maybe we could build in maybe a 10-year term with a 5-year revisiting of siting, or something where, the structure being fairly portable, if we somehow got to a point where we're looking that could be used for something, maybe we could negotiate some movement to another location within the same area that works for them, that works for us. But again, I think it's unlikely that within a 10-year term we could add that sort of facility.
Yeah, you just said it. If it comes up in 5 years, first, if everybody loves the space, that would be a different conversation, but it is highly portable. So we could just pick up and move it somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah, and my question is just mainly, I think it's, good programming. I'm sure that a lot of communities have benefited from it. I'm just looking at the short-term versus long-term effect that, we would be facing. But I think that's really it. Actually, yes, one more. Regarding viewing parties, is that going to be something that's going to be open to the public, or is there going to be some sort of lottery system or another process by which people will attend?
It will be open to the public. It will be no exclusivity whatsoever. We would, if anything, coordinate with the city of Southgate, AYSO, and the Hollydale School to make sure that it's filled with youth from the direct community.
And would there be any cost associated with that?
Not that the city would take on, no.
And any of the residents, for example, that would attend those viewing parties?
I would hope so, yes.
But I mean, in terms of a cost, would there be a cost to
Oh,
residents?
no. there's no cost associated with anything that we do.
Okay.
Everything is free. And when I'm not here, I'm busting my behind to raise money to make these things happen.
Now, is there something, for example, I mean, I know we have had some AYSO parents mention that they've had trouble with like lighting and stuff. Is there anything that you would or can think of that can help them while at the same time helping you guys set up your facility?
Yeah, it's a great question. At this point in time, it's not necessarily possible because we do have a scope of our budget to just cover what we're doing here. But let's say that this is a highly successful project, which I imagine it's going to be. And let's say that this partnership is as successful as I hope it's going to be. That answer is a lot different a couple of years down the line. Let's say AYSO and I collaborate and we end up really bringing in more fundraising dollars, more opportunities, then yeah, there might be an opportunity to look for ways to expand the lighting, expand services, expand resources over to AYSO. I can't promise that, but I can tell you that in the immediate, for the scope of our budget and our operations right now, it's probably not possible. That's why we are hoping to use this as an opportunity to offer the space directly to AYSO so that they can benefit directly from it.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No, I just wanted to kind of ask about the lighting situation and see if there is any way or any plan to maybe see if there is a way to expand into the area that's east of it, where I believe AYSO usually or recently used to practice, and maybe is that something that would be feasible or contradict with any of the?
It won't be possible from a street soccer perspective because because of the nature of the model, the lights are affixed to the wall system.
Oh, got it.
So it's just very difficult. That would turn it into a genuine infrastructure project, which we are not in the business of doing right now.
Oh, I see. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Do we have any public comment? If there's more than one, can you please line up?
Good evening. Just a couple of comments.
Can you state your name, please?
Evelyn Chacon. They had mentioned you had mentioned the lack of audience or kids. AYSO has 450 kids per every season, which is like 900 kids. I don't think you're gonna have a lack of kids. Okay. In terms of the space, in the plan, there was supposed to be a senior center, not a gymnasium. The senior center, that area that they're trying to occupy. I don't see it honestly anytime soon happening through the city because they need millions of dollars, and we've been trying to fight for that, and other parks have been built before anything has been done to Holladale Regional Park. So honestly, I don't see anything happening anytime soon in terms of that it would impact your program. I agree with there should be an agreement, a written agreement with AYSO, because it has happened to them before where there was only a verbal agreement when they used to have the fields at Southgate Park. People forgot about it, did away with it, and that verbal agreement just disappeared. So it would be great if there was a written agreement, because that's something that we've been fighting for with the city, because there was a verbal agreement about using the park at Southgate, and after COVID, that verbal agreement disappeared. So that would be great if we can have that. And in terms of the weekend, theirs doesn't affect AYSO. Our tournaments are in the morning. Last gameplay is at 2. The ladies were there till 4, picking up. So in terms of us or you guys into our space and so forth on the weekends, it doesn't interfere with that at all. So that was one of your concerns as well. But thank you. Thank you for taking into consideration.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Maria Cortez, and I am the Regional Commissioner from Southgate AYSO. And I am very happy and pleased to say that we've been talking to Luca, and we will be in full support for now. I am currently working on a partnership agreement, so hopefully, I don't know what I'm supposed to do or where to go, but I will present that to my board and Luca and his team. So hopefully we can come to an agreement with something. I just hope that AYSO grows, they grow, and I am for bettering the community in every way. I know we've raised our hands to say what's going to happen with parking space, the restrooms issues. I mean, our restrooms at Hollandale Park are really, really bad. I would just say bad. So those are the only concerns, but I am happy to work with Luca and team. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jimmy Ozeta, Southgate resident. I guess my only question for Street Soccer USA is in regards to the utility costs, lighting, is that going to be covered by your organization or by the city?
So the Street Soccer USA proposes paying the utility bill themselves for the lighting.
So the city will not be contributing anything to the
Correct.
Okay.
Any operations.
the city of Southgate?
Yeah.
And in regards to the senior center, proposed center, I think you're absolutely right. I think we're long from that, just given our financial mess here at the city. But I would say it's important to kind of put some clause in there just in case. We never thought we'd have 3 parks this year. And look what we found, right? We have 3 parks. So it might be good to kind of look at the agreement and maybe put some clause in there just in case funding does come down from the state that can benefit the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close out presentation number 1. We'll move on to presentation number 2, city budget and fiscal future.
Do you guys, as commission, have feedback or comments regarding the overall presentation or the overall?
I think we gave them all.
So you're all kind of in agreement
For this
yeah, for this
particular-
street soccer.
Well, I would just say to consider those agreements that AYSO mentioned that they would want to have in writing. And I think that also considering what we have planned for already with the master plan, having some sort of contingency in there that would allow for that should any funding come down the pipeline. I think that, we've already invested time and resources into that master plan. I think that we should try to stick to it if the funding's available. So I think those 2 things would probably be something to include. That and of course the outreach I think is important. We've seen it with other projects in the city, not only with parks but everything where something is coming down the pipeline and residents only find out the week that construction is starting. So I think that that's important to make sure that everyone in the Hollandale area is aware. I have friends and family that live in that area, and they haven't heard anything about it. But I know that you haven't sent any communication out. But it'd be great to have their input since you're going to be their neighbor. So those would be my suggestions.
I guess I think it's a great opportunity for 2 organizations to partner and really grow together. I would say same thing. I think it'd be very mindful and forward-looking to kind of solidify some sort of agreement, right, in writing, just to avoid any confusion and conflicts in the future. Same thing with the programming. I think, especially with the World Cup coming up and the Olympics short after that. I don't know if Visa has any, clauses or anything about the Olympics, but the World Cup with those viewing parties, just getting ahead of time and scheduling out, we're going to know the World Cup schedule soon. So scheduling that out, scheduling out your guys' program and scheduling out AYSO's program so that it's clear cut and no confusion going into, a very busy year, 2026.
I would like to express my support. I think this is a great opportunity for the city. And I really do hope that we find a way to expand and maybe even bring this program to some of the other parks or some of the other open space areas on the west side of the city. I know that, it's kind of hard because of the river and the freeway kind of separating Hollandale out, but, maybe even, if there's any opportunities in the future to have that available on the west side and you know and still partner with AYSO because it you know it would I think they you know considering that they need the space I think you know figuring out ways to really grow this would be really awesome and like I said as somebody who grew up with soccer I really do benefit a lot of my personal success to having that sport in my life.
Okay, so we're officially going to close out presentation number 1. And we're moving on to presentation number 2, our city budget and fiscal future.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Street Soccer USA. And what we have before you, and we'll pull up the PowerPoint here in a minute, is the summary that we've been presenting both at our city council meeting, recently at our planning commission, and tonight at the Parks Commission. The discussion of our state of our city's finances and the concerns we have with those finances, as well as the future thoughts on how to bridge the gaps that we have, and discussions about ideas that our other cities use to bridge those gaps and ideas the city has to look at that. So Louis, our administrative service director, and myself will share this presentation, and there'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions throughout if you'd like. And just so you know, this information is available online on our website, where we've got the council version of the presentation recorded, as well as the PowerPoint. So that is available if anyone's wanting to see that.
And that's under budget on the city website.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So the C's budget and fiscal future, evaluating our fiscal crossroads. So we have something called a structural deficit. So that is when your revenues are less than your expenditures every year, where they're far enough apart that it's not just a one-year problem, but it's an annual problem. Over time, this structural deficit that we've had for many, many, many years has continued to grow larger and larger. We'll talk about how it's gotten to where it is, but the current shortfall is projected to between 8 and 9.4 million in the coming fiscal year. We have a budget of 80 million, so this is over 10%. So that's a serious number. We did one-time solutions this past budget year. In July, we were faced with a possible path of an $8 million cut to all our services. We presented that option to the council, and they were very concerned about how this could gut so many things that our residents care about, and felt like we had to see if we could use more time to find some alternative to those cuts. So they provided direction that we use one-time funds and some of our reserves for budget stabilization to bridge this year, to keep the cuts from happening this year. And so we have services, we have our facilities operating, and it appears all is well, but we are on borrowed time. So we want to talk about where we're at and where we're headed. So how did we get here? We have operating costs for all of our different facilities, operations, rising faster than the revenues we get. We, for about 4 years, had additional funding coming from the federal government in the form of ARPA funds, which were helping all cities and many other government agencies with funds to fill the gaps during the COVID time. But we've now run out of that money. So we don't have a solution that comes from those funds anymore, and we have to figure something else out. Uh-oh. We got a problem. James, could you see what you could? I'm not getting a way to, can you forward to the next slide with the arrow button? Maybe the forward arrow on the keyboard? Or is it frozen up?
Still refreshing on top.
Okay, well, I've done this presentation enough times, I can roll. One of the big things we want to talk about is help educate our community and our commission and everywhere is a little one-on-one on where city finances, where our revenues come from and how our expenditures work. And so I'm going to pass that over to our Administrative Services Director, Louis Frosto, to go over that basic information, and then we'll come back my way later in the presentation. Louis?
Sure. Louis Frosta, Administrative Services Director. So I want to go over a couple of things. I don't think we'll be able to get the slide working, but I'm going to focus a little bit on Revenue 101 and funding sources for the city. The main pot of money that we're talking about when we're referring to deficits or the structural deficit, or when we talk about operating costs, most of it is coming from this pot of money called a general fund. And I think you've heard this presentation a couple times now. So the general fund is what's used to fund most core services: police, police, parks and rec, community development, like code enforcement, things of that nature. Public works, a lot of the CAP projects are funded through special revenue sources, but public works does have staff that is funded through the general fund as well. My department, human resources, risk management, those departments are all funded by the general fund. And so when we talk about discretionary revenues, that's money that we have flexibility with. It's really this one pot of money. We have other funding sources, quite a bit of them, more than most cities, thankfully, but those are restricted typically to specific uses. Now, there's certain caps here I want to go through in a bit, but when we talk about the overall general fund, the police department makes up about 56% of those expenditures. So about 56%, 55.6% of all of the money that comes in that's discretionary goes to our police. And that's not atypical, that's pretty common. That's followed by parks. Parks is the second biggest slice of the pie at about 16.5%. Public works is about 9%. And then community development is about 8%, and then it flows down from that. For example, my department's about 3.4%. And so all of these departments have a slice of this pie, and it's a limited pie. And throughout the budget process, as Rob mentioned, we had this dilemma. Well, there's a certain amount of money that we have, but costs keep going up. And we are at a point where one-time revenue, i.e. ARPA, is no longer available to offset these costs. And so going through here, I'm going to go through, I think we'll start with property tax or sales tax. So sales tax rate. So Southgate has a sales tax rate of about 10.75%. Southgate keeps about 2% of that. 1% is the regular standard that every city gets through Bradley Burns. And then the other 1% was Measure P that the Southgate residents voted on. Was it 2008? I don't remember the year. 2008. And so thankfully, because of that, we keep 2% of that 10.75. So for every $100 in a taxable purchase in a city, the city keeps $2 of that, which is great. Now, keep in mind, not everything that we buy is taxable. Food, groceries, a lot of that is not taxable. So you could spend a ton of money on food, but the city's not really going to get much from that. Then we have our property taxes. The biggest share of this is going to LA County. We keep about 6.15% of that. So for a $1 of the basic 1% property tax, we get about 6 cents. And that's not a whole lot of money. And so this percentage, and you'll see, we won't see because we can't show you, but if you look at our Southgate compared to all the other cities, 6% is actually very low in terms of what we get for property taxes. But unfortunately, because of Proposition 13, that's all we get, and we can't change that number. So that's a fixed number. We're grateful for what we can get, but every city around us gets a lot more than that. And so talked about why this matters. Property taxes grow at a very low percentage. It's capped about 2% a year. Sales tax, although there is usually a moderate increase It's really dependent on how the economy is doing. This year, we're seeing a softening in sales tax, and we've seen that softening happen for 3 straight quarters, which indicates to me that the economy is not doing very well. And so at mid-year, we'll be presenting a budget update to the public, and we'll have an opportunity to gauge how we're doing on our sales tax side. But we talked about the structural deficit. I talked about rising costs. Well, what are these costs? Well, many of us feel a lot of the common ones, right? Inflation, the cost of purchasing things have gone up. Throughout the city, we have contracts. A lot of our contracts have increases built into them. So every year they go up by CPI or some percentage points. In general, as a general rule of thumb, our revenues tend to grow about 4% per year, all in. And so, you know, that what eats into that is the cost related to our health insurance. We'll talk about that in a minute. The cost that we pay into our unfunded liability, the pension obligations that we have. We have costs related to the street lighting and landscaping that we'll talk about. And so these costs keep going up, and the revenue is not keeping up. So there's a slide in here that looks at salary increases, because it's really common for folks to bring up, well, you know, we keep giving salary increases, and that's where all of our money is going. But the reality is, there's two pieces of that. One, we have some contractual obligations in our MOUs to provide those raises. And in the other side of that is that when we look at the overall percentage of our revenue growth, I talked about 4%, it's about 4.37% per year. The average MOU increase over the last 5 years is actually much lower than that. It's about 2.97%. And so it's a pretty healthy rate when you compare it to the revenue growth increases. And so the core issues that we have to deal with here, starting with the unfunded pension liability, is, well, actually, let's talk about all 4 categories. So if you look at all 4 categories combined, there's a change in dollars of about $10.7 million. What does that mean? It means that if I look at what we were spending in fiscal year 20 for the same 4 categories, which is $13 million, $13 million, $13.2 million on unfunded pension liability, on health insurance, on liability insurance, and the street lighting and landscaping district. In fiscal year 2020, that was $13.2 million. That's those same 4 categories in fiscal year 25-26 is $22.7 million. And so this huge increase in costs is not up because all of a sudden we're getting more for our money. As a matter of fact, these things are standard costs, fixed costs that just keep going up way faster than we get in increases in revenue. Some of these are not controllable. There's not a lot of levers we can pull, especially when it comes to our health insurance, unfunded liability. Street lighting and landscape is something we can do something about. It's been over 30 years, I think, since that assessment's been looked at. But the city is subsidizing that landscaping district by about $1.5 million. And so that's general fund money that is being pulled because the district or the street lighting and landscaping fund is only pulling in a flat amount. And I think it's because there was no CPI put in when that was passed. The general liability insurance, and this is not unique to Southgate, but general liability insurance for all kinds of different reasons that we can go through if you'd like. Those premiums keep going up. And so looking at just that alone, that was 2.4 million in fiscal year 2020. It's now 5.2 million, and it's going to continue going up. And that's just to be insured, to ensure that if some unfortunate incident happens, that we're covered. So what does that equate to percentage-wise? That's a 90% change in an increase in costs that are uncontrollable. So this kind of leads us to our our options in the future. And I think this is a section that Rob will take over.
Thank you, Louis. So to summarize that conversation, we all have had a lot of inflation happen over the last, say, 5 years where, if you go to a McDonald's, get a Big Mac and it was $3 and now it's $7, and we have trouble with, the cost of vehicles or the cost of many things that we're used to buying, jacking up, cost of contractors coming to do any work at our home. Everything's going up. And then we are highlighting 4 specific areas that really impact our city that are on top of that are rising at rates far beyond that 4% revenue creating an even greater deficit. And things like our pension obligations, we don't have control over. Things like our insurance liability, we don't have control over. Health insurance is going up 7 to 11% every year instead of 3 or 4%. And then that landscape lighting district on our parcel taxes didn't have a CPI put in 30 years ago. And so obviously it doesn't cover today's costs. All these things create this gap, and we have to have a solution. And it really leads us to 2 options. One is reducing our expenses to match our revenues, or finding a way to fill that gap with new revenue. And that would allow us to maintain the services people are used to. So to get to what exercises we're doing to figure this out is in June, as I mentioned, the council had before them the option of doing a series of cuts. And so as department heads, we got together to look at where would all this cut come from. And we gave a list of all those. Really, we only got to 6 million. We couldn't even find 8 million without figuring out how we could even operate as a city. But it had serious cuts in use of our pool, use of eliminating all our special events, eliminating the $750,000 a year the city pays for school crossing guards. Our community values school crossing guards, but nobody knows the city's paying for those. The school district refuses to pay for them. It's a model that's throughout Southern California that cities pay. We've talked to them numerous times. School district won't pay. They say they don't have the funds. So if we stop paying, they go away. But nobody's happy about that. But that's $750,000 as an example that would have to go away. Our police department being 55% of our budget, if we have to find $9 million, technically it's like a $4.8 million reduction there. We've recently looked at what we at maximum could reduce there. It might be 3 million to 3.5 million to still keep public safety there. So the rest of those cuts get forced into Parks and Rec, into our finance department, into our community development department, which creates even greater cuts there. So this could mean significant changes in our building planning, permitting, review times doubled or tripled, wait times at the counter going into the 2 to 3 hours or longer, code enforcement staff being reduced to the point where, we can't probably get to most anything. Graffiti control right now is 7 days a week, but we wouldn't be able to afford that. Right now you don't see a lot of graffiti in town, but if we go down to say 40 hours a week, we'll never catch up. So the community starts looking completely different with a cut program that we've looked at as that being the model. So the opportunity then is to look at other revenue growth options that could help fill that gap. And so we've talked about a bunch of them internally, and we continue to brainstorm. One of them is the street lighting and landscape district. We talked about 30 years ago, it was set at a certain rate. Costs have gone up. We could go back to the people and ask them, would they be willing to increase that to the modern costs to cover that $1.5 million? So if, say, the public was willing to take that on, we, instead of a $9 million gap, would be at, say, $7.5 million. So it's certainly possible to do, but that leaves us still with such massive cuts. It's a step, but it would be a long ways from really helping us out. Our transit occupancy tax that we charge on motels in town is below the normal rates. We charge 8%. However, we have so few hotels with so little revenue that if we bump that up a few percent to be more on par with, say, 2% more, we might generate $150,000 more a year. So this is something we can look at. But again, the scale of what we're trying to fill here, it's far from that. We are finishing a study to look at impact fees for new development, for traffic, for contribution to parks, for contribution for public safety. These are normal fees that a lot of cities have that a lot of Southeast LA cities have not had put in. And so I'm working to get that study completed, and we'll see an opportunity. But all those impact fees that get grabbed in the time of development get become special funds for traffic impact repairs around that development, or specific to certain projects, and they're not general fund. So it could help overall with city finances, but not fill that $9 million gap. Increasing economic development, looking for more stores, restaurants, things that generate sales tax. Exactly what we're trying to do. And, you know, we have a new Chick-fil-A that came in that's super busy. It's great, booming. But as an example, the kind of revenue the city can get from our share of the sales tax of an operation like that is around $90,000 a year. So although it's awesome, we'll need 100 Chick-fil-A's to get $9 million. So it's very slow. Comparatively, if someone could bring in a Costco in the next couple of weeks, it would be great. That's around $1.5 million that it can generate. Again, not 9 million, but it's incrementally, yes, we need to develop, but can we solve that budget gap anytime in the future? No. And so we're looking at these different things internally. We're doing a lot of trimming. We're finding positions that we can trim out and looking at more efficient ways to do business. We just approved a contract to analyze services we're contracting out and services we're contracting in, and to see if there's any analysis that could show we could save money one way or the other. On a small example of that, many years ago, we looked at tree trimming, which was done in-house with staff. And at the time, the staffs, we call them classic pension group, the people that have a richer formula, their benefits on top of their salaries compared to the market were quite high. And then the low bid rate for contractors for do tree trimming was comparatively lower. So the service was contracted out and there was a savings. But in the last 7 or 8 years, there's a new pension formula for new staff that is much less lucrative. So the cost of city staff for newer staff, anyone hired before or after 2014, their cost is lower per person. Plus, the state, in their helpful ways, decreed that all services like tree trimming can't be low bid. They have to be prevailing wage, which is great in the thought of take-home pay for workers, but that was an unfunded mandate that increased at roughly 30% the cost of these contracts. We don't get that 30% revenue, but it became a cost. So we're going to reanalyze and see if the cost of our staffing based on the new prevailing wage, if bringing it back in-house could save money. So that's just one example of many analysis we're doing internally. But again, could those savings be in the 100,000s or 100,000? Yes. Will they be 9 million? No. So that's a big part of what we're analyzing. When we talk about, how do you fill this gap? Do other cities have this problem? Well, we have a lot of cities, and you'll be seeing it over and over again. A lot of cities are struggling with finances. Now that all the ARPA money's gone away, sort of it exposes all the leaks that are in other cities. And so they're struggling. They're going to be going out for sales tax or parcel taxes. But every city around us has something called a utility users tax. It's generating millions for those cities. And our city does not charge anything for utility users tax. So when we look at options out there for additional revenue, we're missing that piece. And so if we're comparing ourselves to Downey, how can Downey do this without a struggle? They charge utility users tax, and they've done this since 2014, that generates $10 million a year. So that's $10 million a year they have that we don't have. And so how are we supposed to provide services similar to Downey if we're 10 million behind them? It's a interesting dilemma. Every city around us, Paramount, Linwood, Huntington Park, Bell Gardens, you name it, they have utility users tax, and we're at zero. So that is a low-hanging fruit when it comes to a revenue source that could have the potential to cover the $9 million gap. There's other options some cities choose, like casinos. They generate huge amounts of money. 40% of Bell Gardens general fund comes from the casino revenue. Cannabis tax for cities that allow cannabis stores, they can make $1 million or $2 million, depends how many. But you do get impacts to the community from those, both the casinos and the cannabis shops. They can have their drawbacks, and the council's not looked to see that to be a solution. But again, that's if we look at a model that makes sense compared to our surrounding communities, the utility user tax does have the potential, if it was pursued, to fill the gap. What percent, when we look at what percent would cover that gap, we've done a study about a 7% utility users tax would generate, we believe, a little over $9 million. Downey has a 5% sales tax, utility users tax now. Paramount's, I believe, 5.5. Linwood is in the, I can't remember exactly. Do we have that one? Oh, here we go. 9%. Huntington Park is 9.75. Bell is 10%. Bellflower is 5%, Maywood 4%. So there's different percentages around us, but something like 7 we thought might be, because we're starting at 0, might be a number that we could propose. Someone with regular utility bills, we estimate $40 a month roughly, that might count, and that would be on things like water, sewer, electricity, cable, those type of things. 7% added to those bills. And that could add up to that amount of money. It would be on anyone who pays the utility bills. So an interesting component of that, with renter rates in our city around 65%, our property taxes are paid by our property owners. And many of them aren't residents. They're not using our services. The renters are. So you have property owners, which is great. They're paying to support all the city services, but they're not going to the parks. They're not using the facilities, but the renters are. And a utility users tax actually puts that contribution in the hands of the people paying the utility bill. So there is an interesting linkage there in that model. So what's being looked at is this concept of a utility users tax. And so I've shared a little bit about what it is and the percentages it builds. And the revenue that's coming for, I mentioned Downey is around 10 million. Bell makes 4.7 million. They're only a population of 33,000, so a third of our population, but because they charge 10%, they're at 4.7 million. Huntington Park, 6.4 million. Bellflower, 3.7. Linwood, 5.4 million. So this Southgate's number is 0. So it is something to look at. There are a question of what can these funds fund. They actually can fund anything in the general fund. So they're not specific. They're not dedicated to a certain use. So there's flexibility to fill our parks programs, our police programs, streets, school crossing guards, all the things that we're talking about that could be at risk. I talked about the amount that it might cost. If you have higher utilities, of course, the rate's higher. But this is the thought behind it. Steps
question.
that we're doing going forward will be.
Want to ask a quick question?
Oh yeah, please do.
Is the tax just on residents, or is it on businesses as well?
Anyone with utility bill, that includes
Okay.
industrial, commercial, and residential. And typically, depending on the makeup of your city, the majority of the costs may even be coming from commercial and industrial and not from the community. But yes, it's everyone.
Thank you.
The steps we're planning to take is our department directors have been working closely with ourselves. We're tying in our union leaders, and we've reached out to all our staff to create a $9 million cut budget with all the bad pieces, including positions we would have to look at laying off. That's giving us a blueprint to present at the January 13th council meeting so that we can give a true picture to the community and the council. If we don't get a solution, this is what it's going to equate to. So we'll list at that meeting all our different departments, police department, but also Parks and Rec. You know, a draft version of that before us looks like having to close our pool 6 months out of the year, having to reduce the amount of programs we can have in our parks if we have less staff to support our spring seasons for sports teams. We wouldn't be able to support special events at all. Reduced hours on all sorts of things. And then that's just Parks and Rec, but it gets into every department. So we'll share that. And then at that workshop, we're going to present to the council, are they interested in doing the 2 steps required to put a utility users tax on the ballot? The council doesn't have the power to add this tax. It has to be voted on by the people. To put it on a June ballot, which is not our standard November time frame because there's no council member on the election, we have to declare a fiscal emergency, and then we have to put it on the ballot. So council will have that before them in January. They have up till the end of February, the second meeting in February, to make that decision to hit the June deadline. So that's going to come before them at that 13th meeting. We'll see what their decisions are. We need a unanimous vote to declare a fiscal emergency and a supermajority of 4/5 to approve putting it on the ballot. If they choose to do that, then the June date would be set up. The cut plan and budget would be prepared, as well as a normal budget side by side over the course of the spring, which is our normal budget development program. And then the first Tuesday of June, the vote from the community, if it's on the ballot, the community will tell us which budget they want to choose. And it'll be in the hands of the residents where it should be, and they get to choose the future of the city. And if it's for the UUT, then we have our path. And if it's not, if it's against the UUT, we will have the budget ready, and the cuts would start July 1st, where we do all the closures and everything would hit. So that's the blueprint and the plan. What are we doing now forward? We are we're having a survey done by a consultant that's reaching out to a random set of people in the community, asking questions. Are they aware of our fiscal state? Are they aware of a utility users tax? Are they interested in that being a possible solution to preserve services? We're going to get feedback from those surveys. We're sending out social media, just went out today, telling people, do you know how much property tax comes back to the city? Do you know how sales tax works? And then we'll have future ones talking about, do you know what a utility users tax is? So it'll be education. We'll be doing a one-pager, one side English, one side Spanish, and all the water bills, explaining just high level what's going on. We've got our website that will have soon frequently asked questions, presentations, video of presentations, and our one-pager. We'll be providing opportunities for anyone who wants to contact Louis and I directly and have a discussion. We've already had our new commissioner, Eric, take us up on it. Came by a couple of weeks ago and we sat down with him and just went over the budget with him directly. So happy to do that. Happy to meet at, neighborhood groups if they want to have more discussion, and we want to keep that dialogue open. But that's the summary of our presentation. Happy to take any questions or comments.
So with a 7%, that's basically $7 for every $100 in utility usage.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems fair, but I'll open it up to commissioners if you have any questions.
Thanks. Yeah, I had the opportunity to already go through this a couple of times, but I think when the trouble I've been having, and I'm kind of glad you jumped on, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys posted, but regarding just how much the city takes back from taxes, everybody does have this perception that we have the highest taxes. And so I think I would like more clarity on the property tax, why it is that we don't get as much from property taxes. I know Prop 13 kind of sets a limit on what has been valued, right? And so do we get higher return on recently purchased homes? Because I know, at least for myself, being a new homeowner, our taxes aren't that bad. I mean, I guess they're kind of high. And so I'm curious to see if other owners who've been in the city maybe longer don't pay as high, right, of taxes.
Yeah, so your overall tax rate, which incorporates everyone's taxes. So I'll use an example: a $500,000 home, $500,000 home or apartment, roughly we'll use 1% as an annual tax rate, say $5,000. So if you pay your check for $5,000, a lot of people, as we say, go, I just gave the city $5,000. Why are you coming to me for taxes? It's like, no, you gave the city $300. You gave school districts most of the money, and you gave the county, you gave the state the rest of the money, and we got 300. So that's something people need to be educated on.
Yeah.
And that 300 is 6.15% of the amount. And we are the lowest rate of our surrounding communities. How did that rate get set? It's very complicated. Cities all had different rates back when the proposition went in the 70s, and they all got frozen at that time. Some people's percentage is higher because out of that, they're funding police and fire, and in some cases, and libraries. And in cities that just have, say, police, that are not, like, our fire is on the parcel tax, so that we wouldn't get a piece of the property tax to fund fire. So our rate's a little lower. Libraries as well as county, so we don't get that. But cities like us, with just police, without fire, without libraries, have a higher percentage than 6.15. They might have 7, they might have, 8 even. So that's just weird that it was set up that way and it got frozen and we have no way to change it. We're stuck in that position. But when we do talk about, we do have a graph, unfortunately we can't show, but it'll be on our presentation online, that shows when you add up these different tax amounts per capita. So you take the total tax that comes from these different tax areas divided by how many people in your city. We've got one that shows how much per person in tax contribution the average person's taking. So in Southgate, it's about $717 per capita. And then you compare that to other cities, like at the high end, Bell, $2,330 per capita. You look at, say, Downey, $1,122, Huntington Park, $888. So we only have Linwood at $706, and Maywood at $538, lower than us in our whole region. Everybody else is a little higher or significantly higher. Again, if you use Downey as an example, they're getting $400 more per resident times, 90,000 or 100,000 residents. If you pay $40 more on your utility bill, we're getting that parity back to try to keep the lights on. And there's cities around us getting much more per resident. So the idea that we're paying the highest taxes in the region is completely wrong. People look at 1075 and they go, that's all going to the city. It's 2%.
Yeah, and that's kind of an argument I've had too with folks, is that we're the highest tax, which we're not. I mean, we're at that rate, but I think it is good to know how much we actually get from that kind of tax, because I think it really does bring into perspective. And my argument too is the amount of services we provide as a city compared to the other cities. It's hard because every city is different. We all have different amount of folks living in our cities. But if you compare the amount of services, like our parks department, we have people from neighboring cities come to our parks, to our programs, and we as residents are paying for it. And I personally don't mind, having been one of those people growing up from Huntington Park, coming to Southgate to play soccer, to play softball. Like it's something that I feel like I'm giving back. And I think it's a beautiful thing to have. And even all our programs too, all our events. And so I think nothing really compares. And like you said, if Linwood and Downey are paying more, like it's just, I don't know. I haven't gotten a response recently from folks.
10.75, I mean, compared to, I think Downey's at 10 and a half. I mean, for $100, if you buy it in Downey, then
Yeah,
s-
Downey's
you save.
utility users
No,
taxes
they're
5%,
their taxes.
but their
overall.
taxes, yeah, 1,122 per person versus
Yeah.
717. Yeah.
So it's like if you buy it in Southgate versus buying it in Downey, you saved a quarter. Basically overall. So it's like it's a very big misconception as far as us being at 10.75, and I think Pico's the other one at 10.75, and the money we actually generate from that is not significant enough for us to sustain a city of this size.
I do have a few questions. In the current budget, as it's framed up, I realize, right, the revenue is an estimate and assumption. Is there risk with the current state of the economy, for example, on sales tax, that even the gap could be greater, given that we don't bring in as much revenue through sales tax as currently projected on the forecast? Or have you guys gone with a really conservative approach?
So the forecast is updated essentially once a year, right? So it has not been updated since it was produced, but there's always that risk that revenues are not going to meet target. For the most part, I will tell you, I wasn't part of prior year budgets. Obviously, I started with the city 7 months ago, but this budget that was passed for fiscal year 25-26, the revenue estimate or the projection is on the conservative side, meaning we would rather not overestimate that revenue,
Right.
with the chance that if it comes in lower, we'll be in more difficult straits. With that being said, I think we did go through the exercise of ensuring that our general fund balance was at a healthy state, meaning we pulled from reserves about $2.3 million to one, balance the budget, but two, to ensure that we had money in the bank. Because even if your revenue and your expenditures were to match perfectly, but you leave nothing in the bank, that's also a red flag, not just for our auditors and the state, but it's also a bad position to be in as a city because things happen.
You can't cash a check.
Yeah, somebody hits a stop sign and that needs to be replaced. We need to be able to fund unforeseen needs, and so yes, there's always, to answer your question, there's always a risk, but we do monitor that every month. City revenues are cyclical, so certain months we get certain revenues, and we watch them very closely.
And then on the flip side, with the current state of insurance costs going up, is that a risk as well, that insurance costs could continue to go up from what we've currently projected?
There's no doubt, no doubt that they will.
So the
continue
gap
to
would
go
be
up.
even greater.
The gap
potentially.
will increase for those categories that we explained. UAL guaranteed to go up. So UAL, let's talk about that for a second. So Rob mentioned that with the classic members of the pension system, those folks that were hired before 2014, the pension costs for them are higher than the new folks who are under pension reform system, which is PEPRA. Post 2014, PEPRA is good in terms of our financial situation, and that for the most part, that is fully funded, meaning employees pay their share of that pension system. And unfortunately, those costs that they pay go up every year. Once a year, CalPERS will send them a letter saying, this is going to be the percent that you're going to be paying. That does not happen on the classic side. It's firm. But the reason I'm going through this kind of explanation is because there will be a time 30 years from now where our unfunded pension liability will be paid off. So it is a major cost for us now, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. At some point, there will be more PEPRA members than classic members, And that means that, and assuming things stay the same, it'll be fully funded. There would be no unfunded pension liability in an ideal world.
Got it. And I think, I mean, as painful as it is, I am in favor of the UET tax. I think one thing that I would add is, if there, with all these ADUs being built, that's another utility user, that it would be an increase to
Right.
UUT, right?
Yes.
And so I know there's been conversations about, oh, we're having too many ADUs, traffic problems, all of this, but that would then at least get the city to benefit somewhat of that incremental, share of homeowners that are including their ADUs.
That's right. And one more note on that, that, there is a percentage, I don't know what the makeup looks like in Southgate, but usually there is a mix of renters who don't pay utilities, and those utilities are paid for by the landlords. And so the impact to the community is a little bit less in those situations, but I understand that in other cases, they are paying it.
Got it. And then just because focusing on the cost that keep going up, I don't know if this is more for education for my purpose. Is it a possibility, and probably the benefit would not be there, but to self-insure? Is that something that can be done? I know in the corporate world it gets done, but I don't know if that's something possible.
It is possible, but I'll tell you, that is, I don't think a situation that we want to be in.
Okay.
I don't think our portfolio can support that kind of risk.
Right.
There are cities that do it, but those cities that do it are cities like Long Beach, cities like LA, the county.
Okay.
You should have a portfolio close to $1 trillion, I think.
Got it.
If you're billions, in the case of Long Beach, almost $1 trillion, 800 billion. But anyway, so I don't think the risk is worth it, to be honest
Got
with
it,
you.
yeah.
It just takes one, we can't predict what's going to happen, but it takes one bad day, one bad incident. And as it is, I don't know if you guys know this, but our self-insured retention numbers are pretty high. So there we are on the hook for a certain amount of that before our insurance even kicks in.
Got it.
And so there's still some risk, but any more risk, I don't think would be good for the city.
Yeah, no, and I was just thinking from the aspect of, okay, we're exposed to events around us, why insurance keeps going up, and we discussed this, and I was like, okay, well, is there a price cost benefit there? Which I imagine it was not going to be, because yes, you're the only people I know who self-insure are $1 trillion companies. That's it.
Everything?
Yeah, I have questions, I guess, a little more around Parks and Rec, for example, and how the budget plays into that. We have a lot of programming and special events and things that go on, right? How do we evaluate these special events, and how do we determine, for example, if we're going to go with PD versus private security, or how do we make these decisions? And is that even an option, for example, to go with private security versus PD? Because I would imagine that that's probably one of the larger expenses for any of these special events. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's, two issues. One are just general practice. If everything was rosy in the budget, and we're talking about, can we save a little here and there as a solution to solve basically the share of the 9 million is a little over 2 million to get to Parks and Rec. So when you think about, we shave off 10 grand or 20 grand from policing versus security, we're not going to solve that problem, but it could be looked at, but it wouldn't be a solution for, say, the budget cuts. But in general, the problem we have is, coincidentally related to liability. And so we have, say, a large event. Southgate, awesomely has thousands of people come to their events. Like our Halloween event, we have like 6,000 people, and our July 4th is thousands, and our Winter Wonderland was 3,000 or 4,000, and it's so many people there. And a security force is always typically not that trained, not that reliable. And if something goes south and someone gets injured, our police have to respond. Someone sues the city. When we talk about liability, what makes our claims so high Of all the counties that I know of in California, the county of Los Angeles is the most willing to give huge judgments. The juries that are at LA courts are very compassionate for victims compared to any other court in California. I came from Orange County, and the claims that when I first got to the city, I'm like, well, yeah, that person says they injured themselves, but it wouldn't ever go to Orange County court. It would just be thrown out. No, I learned in LA County it goes there, and it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So when we talk about liability and someone says a security guard treated them roughly and bumped them, even if they didn't or something, but now we're taking the liability of that maybe poorly trained, part-time security guy that got a little hot-headed. And when it goes to court, if it was just a court case against a security company, the jury is likely to be lenient because it's like, hey, that claim will make that poor security company go under. The owner's there crying. That jury humanness can change the settlement. But when the city shows up, any city, typically you see the poor victim, and then you see this rich city that's got bottomless money, and the claim will just jack up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So when we talk about trying to shave $5,000 or $10,000 maybe overall in a year's worth of security versus policing, we have to add in that liability factor and how much it could cost us. In the short term, maybe it saves a few dollars, but I think our police are worried that if they end up having to supervise the security people, so they're there anyways back behind them to make sure nothing goes wrong. But it's a good point, and it is a decision that has to get made, that how much risk do we feel comfortable with? So I hear your point, but that would be my answer.
Yeah. And I guess for city-sponsored events, that would be the case. But like, third party, for example, carnivals or somebody else, they have requirements for insurance. And I'm sure that we require them to add the city as an additional insured. So is in those particular events, would that be something that we can explore maybe? And I know that, $10,000 here or 15 isn't much, but down the line, and I think that it adds up. And, just considering the situation that we're in, right, I would say that it would behoove us to explore all options and try to figure that out. Another thing with regards to programming, specifically within the parks, I know that we've been working on some surveys to determine, what things people and the residents want to see more of in the park, and maybe I'd like to focus on some of those things that maybe we can use less of. For example, some programming that may not be as popular at some of the other programming. So that's one thing. Another thing is in terms of performance, right? What programming and maybe even employees are performing and versus those that are not performing, and how can we make adjustments to find some cost savings there and try to generate a little more. So regarding that, what process do we have now to determine that?
Well, I mean, we're
With the programming, for example.
with programming and such. I mean, for the most part, I would say majority of our program that we offer out there sells out consistently. I mean, if you come Monday, we have our registration for our winter program, and within hours, most of the stuff is selling out. Everything from our trips that are for our seniors and adults to our kids program. I mean, it's very rare that our programs don't sell out.
I have an alarm set.
What was that?
I have an alarm set.
Yeah, no, really. And then the people we have more people upset over the fact that, like, I just logged on and it says it's already full. So it's not, our issue isn't so much that our programming is not popular or people don't see it as important. And so right now we're continuing to offer what we can with the budget we have, and we're not cutting anything out because, we try our best to have, I mean, most recently, I would say just due to some staffing issues, we had to change things around and make some cuts to some of our top time classes and such. And, and we're looking now to see, okay, how can we add that in? So instead of, what we did now is that we moved program around we took some program from the girls clubhouse that typically happen regularly, moving it over to the Hollydale Community Park and things like that. But it has nothing to do like us moving it around. The numbers are still there. The numbers are there. So we don't want to cut anything else.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for example, like, our facilities, baseball diamonds, soccer fields, or not, we don't have any soccer fields, but just the use of facilities, for example, how do we determine that what the current use is the highest and best use? For example, I mean, I know we can probably compare AYSO versus an organization, and how do we know, or how do we determine whether the use for one organization is the highest and best use versus the other organization?
Well, we try to make things fair across the board. And I mean, James can probably speak a lot more on it than I can because he oversees the sports specifically and has been working with all of these groups for many, many years.
Yeah, I will say we usually determine by the sports season. You know, typically the baseball and softball leagues, they're conducted in the spring, and then we do have a smaller season in the fall. Soccer is usually in the summer and the fall, but then we added another league in the or they're trying to add another league in the spring. So it's usually according to the sports season, and then there is some overlap, and that's that problem we have. Like we're so popular, we have more registrants, we have more people wanting to come, and then space becomes at a premium. So we try to stick to their sports seasons first, and then the problem is when they start to overlap and they overfill.
Yeah, I think like what Rob said is that we're not trying to cut the needs of the community. We're looking for solutions that will keep these programs in place and keep them going on for the community, because I mean they've been such a staple of the community for years. Like I've told you guys in the past, I played baseball at 5 years old, and that was 50 years ago. So,
And I'll just add too, when it comes to city services, people might say run a city like a business, but it's a different philosophy. And I don't, I've been in public sector my whole career, but I keep tuned with business. I took an MBA. I understand the business models. I have friends in the business community, but what's the core service you're trying to provide and what's your mission? And if your mission is profit, you look for highest and best use. If your mission is serving a disadvantaged community with affordable or free service, it's a different vision. And so with a different vision, you are looking for different things. You compare the JAA fees for a whole season of softball, they're charging, I think it's $80 for a season. Well, that's ridiculous. It's like the lowest in the region. Highest and best value, if we're trying to run like a business, let's start charging AYSO, $200 a field times every practice, make tons of money. You want to go use the pool, you want to pay the actual cost of that visit. It isn't going to be $4. It's going to be $25. You want to go play basketball, it's going to be $40. Like everything, if we go highest and best value, we might be able to find people that come in from other cities even to use our facilities exclusively. But then we're cutting out what's our vision, what's our mission. And I think our mission is to find ways to contribute and fund these programs so that they are subsidized, that seniors can go use the senior centers for free. But who's paying the salary staff, and who's paying the air conditioning, and who's paying the lighting, and who's paying for all the services? We got to find solutions. And I think that keeps us on mission. So that's the balance we have to take. It's not always highest and best use, but it's who's our clientele. And then we talk about services balancing between sports programs, which I know you asked. We have a football program that's there that we don't have any football fields. So we try to accommodate, but we don't even have that service. We've been working for years to try to get the school district to partner with us. They have tons of facilities. Should they be a partner? You bet. Do they want to partner? Very hard to do. We're trying. We don't have soccer fields. We have baseball fields. So at Southgate Park, there's baseball fields. There's an attempt to try to do some sharing with those sites, but they're not set up really for soccer. The soccer program has been set up at Holydale Regional forever. And so there's not an attempt to try to move. We tried last year to put some football there to try to share, but that didn't make that didn't make soccer happy, because they're like, this has been our field. What are you trying to do? We have an established baseball program, trying to merge some soccer in there. That doesn't make them happy. I think the core thing I hear is not how can we cut programs, but how can we add more facilities, more lighting, more. And if the community is asking that, I think we have an opportunity to match that desire with how you're going to have to contribute more if you want more. Right. If you want, it's disconnected to expect more and pay less. So I think we could use, that could be a, you know, a way to talk to the community about connecting those two, the desire with a way to pay for it.
And I think we have to tread carefully too when we talk about security, because I know even just recently having police was something that was asked for by the community, to have them at the carnival because of the crime that kind of started happening. And so I think, you know, who are we serving, like you said, you know, and whose demands are we serving when we do have all those people asking for more security measures to be taken? And personally, I appreciate the presence, because I do feel safer as somebody who attends events like that. And even recently at the Linwood Parade, there was news that, you know, somebody got stabbed there.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to have that risk at our events, because it's too high of a risk. Life is too high of a risk. And so whatever we can do to deter the crime, I'm all for it. But I would be interested to see, because I know that you guys have taken measures. I know you were talking about looking at, you know, implementing some of these, like the tree trimming in-house. I know that the street sweeper was something that was kind of mentioned too, going back to bringing that back in. But I think that would be great to hear during the quarterly updates you guys are going to be giving at the council meetings. I think that's helpful, because, you know, people are usually talking about mismanagement, but I think that thought comes because people don't hear about what efforts have been taken by the city to bring in revenue, like the fees, the processing fees that were taken. And I think it would be great for the people to know that, you know, this is happening while we're also looking at this utility tax.
Yeah, I think I just want to echo your point, as I think I think there's also the impression that the UUT is being pushed on the community, but it's really, I know you guys are working on a parallel budget of, hey, okay, that if that's not passed, this is essentially what you're voting for. You're voting for either cuts or paying more. And it's because there are more services that are constantly being offered, but it doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. It's to just get us to a level set, or a healthy level set now. And also, like, I think that's important in the communication, to not get people to think that, oh, I'm going to pay more, I'm going to get more. It's no, you've been getting more. We've been, you know, dipping into reserves, which is also not a healthy thing to do. And it's just, you know, it's kind of come to a head, and an action needs to be taken. Either you need to pay a little bit more, or we're going to have to cut back all these other services that you've constantly been enjoying.
Right. And if I could just add, and Rob has talked about this tonight, but it's important to also to get the message out there to the community, and that there's quite a bit of work happening internally to find efficiencies. That I have not been in a single, I have not gone a single day since I've been here in 7 months where we haven't talked about how can we make this better, how can we make it cheaper, how can we reduce costs. That is something that the staff is working on day in and day out. There are examples often not talked about that we are doing and looking at, from looking at short-term rentals in the city and taxing them, looking at the 30 or 40% of businesses that are not registering with their business licensing team like they should. That's missed out revenue. There is, we updated the user fees back during the budget adoption, but we only did it about a quarter of what they should have been, because we didn't want to cause a knee-jerk reaction in terms of the drastic increase. But our fees are not at market; they're way below it. And so, I mean, there's a whole ton that's being done, going from even as simple as taking a paper contract and walking it to 10 different people to sign, to an electronic document management system that allows electronic signatures. I mean, the amount of hours saved in labor. So there's a lot of work that's being done. I think our staff is doing their part. But at the end of the day, my job, I have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that the budget that gets adopted in June and July is balanced. Either gets balanced through cuts or gets balanced through significant additional revenue. But I can't sign my name to a budget that is structurally deficient. It's just not sustainable and it's not appropriate. And so I think it's one of those situations where it's going to be a combination of all these things that gets us to a better place, not just one.
And Rob, this is not new. This is a decade old or more. I mean, we've been in this situation. I hear it all the time, every year, how the city is in a hole. And like I said, for more than a decade, it's been there. And we've pushed things off. We pushed things off. COVID happened. Had to push things off. I think 2008, we had a big crash. We've pushed it off. And the longer we push things off, the worse and worse we're going to be. And so I know the biggest thing I hear all the time is, well, you know, it's not a good time. It's not a good time. You know, people are struggling. We have tariffs. People are paying more. But every year that goes by, there's going to be something that happens. And we adjust, you know, like I said, for every $100, it's going to be $7. We can adjust. If it's going to benefit our city and make it a better city, we're citizens of the city. And like I keep saying the same thing. I'm born and raised here. That's 54 years of being in this city. And if I'm going to make my city better by contributing $7 for every $100 in utility, it's not something that's not needed. It's, again, for over a decade, it's been needed.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And don't think Southgate is isolated in that. Every city I've worked at, and I know 100 city managers around Southern California in my years, every city struggles to, you know, as an elected official, you're not coming in as your goal, your vision to run for council is to raise taxes, make everybody pay more. It's the last thing you want to do. You're there to make the community better without having to do that. And so it's the last thing. And so that waiting for that right time, which will never come,
Right.
like what year in our lives was the right time to pay more for something? Never will happen.
Yeah,
Our
that's
sewer-
what I'm trying to make a point that
Yeah.
it's been around here for more than a
Yeah.
decade. So it's
So
not like it
it's
just
a-
popped
yeah.
up all of a sudden. And
But it's not even just on, say, Southgate's leaders. It's like every city does that and they put it off and because it's never the right time.
it's never the right time. Exactly.
So
And I appreciate what you've said in your reports, and because lots of things I'm hearing about, oh, you know, why did we give out raises then? Why did we do this? Why aren't we cutting these things? And compared to what we need and the savings that can be generated from cutting small services, I mean, it's less than 1% of what the whole entire budget is. So I appreciate what you're saying, because those are exactly what I've been hearing from just talking in general to friends, like, oh, this is going to be happening. And they're like, oh, but why are the raises then? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Why? So I appreciate you addressing that from the get-go, because those are the biggest questions.
Yeah, and I'll give you my quick little elevator pitch on that. If you look at, I've got a little summary that I've done, but if you look at government agencies that are in fiscal crisis that give cost of living, not massive raises, but cost of living raises, take a look at the federal government. 38 trillion in debt. Last year's average federal increase was 5.6%. You take state of California with 38 billion is their latest deficit. Average increase was in the 3.5 to 4% in their salary increases. City of LA, a couple billion in debt, I think, from their latest number. Average increase in the 4% rate. You take a look at LAUSD, or the LA school district in deficit, gave raises. Local colleges, other school districts did the same. City of Long Beach is in deficit, gave a raise. City of Santa Monica in deficit, gave raises. So it's in the industry. Why? Because in public service, typically 80 to 90% of your service is people. It's employees. We don't sell cars. You go to a car lot, the ratio of inventory is 90% and the staffing is 10. You know, with us, policing is not the cars. That's a tiny piece. It's the humans. And so you can't get service at the level we're expecting in Southgate, which for, just freezing salaries for 5-10 years. Right now, we do surveys all the time. So when people say, maybe our employees are overpaid, we compare to a list of cities that we have done for years that aren't Beverly Hills, they're not Santa Monica, but they're cities like ours, where our positions are at the middle, which has been the philosophy of this city forever, or lower. And that's where they're at. Nobody's higher than the middle. And so if we don't give any raise at all, we start going lower. We start, say the idea is we'll just cut everybody's salary 10%. It sounds good in theory, but guess what? It's very hard to get lifeguards. Lifeguards are, you're working part-time for a very low wage, but you have to go to all the trouble of getting certified. And you have to basically work part-time because you don't get full-time. So there's pools around here with limited hours around us that can't get lifeguards. We cut 10%. We're going to say, well, but we won't close the pool. But guess what? When we lose all the lifeguards over a course of probably 6 months to a year, we'll be closing the pool.
Closing the pool.
If we don't give raises or cut our police officer salaries, we've just finally got our staffing up from a 68 sworn to 80, which is our current frozen cap. We should be at 86, but we're holding below that for budget issues, but we'll have everyone flee and we won't be able to hire anyone new. Or we'll have to compromise and bring people that really shouldn't be qualified to work because they're the only ones that want to work.
Right.
So all that freezing the salaries part or lowering them leads to people leaving the service not able to be conducted, which gets us back to really cutting the service. So although it sounds good, we have looked and we see, as it was mentioned, 2.97% is the average increase over the last 5 years for salaries. Our revenues are up 4%. So the problem is not the salaries, even though that's over 80% of our budget. The problem is those other pieces.
Yeah. Thank you.
And
So,
I think we still have to keep in mind too, just how important our staff are, how much, and I think that's something people lose track of, that people that go into public service know oftentimes that, that it's not high pay, but the benefits is what attracts people to stay. And it's the friendships and the space that makes people stay over the years. So I think, and then that's been my concern of losing those folks, losing the people in the parks department that I know give so much more than, than what they probably should be giving to the, just all the programming. And so I think that's something that we should all keep in mind.
Yeah, so I would say that we certainly aren't looking to cut programs and, get people fired, right? But I think that part of what I've been hearing from some of the community members has been that, for example, these efficiencies that, have been happening behind the scenes aren't communicated. And why did we let it get to that point? And why are we now just looking for these efficiencies? I think that's an important piece of information that needs to be shared so that people know, so that they don't jump to conclusions and say, hey, well, we're just being taxed and there's nothing to show for it, right? Because if you ask a lot of the community members, streets aren't in the best shape, sidewalks aren't in the best shape. You've mentioned that some of these businesses haven't registered for their license for I don't know how long. How did we get to that point? And why haven't we done anything about it in the last 10 or so years, which is really where we've been in trouble, right? We've been in trouble for maybe the last 10 years or more. So those are some of the questions that I think need to be answered and some of the information that needs to be put out there so that, people are aware and, can sort of understand that and make an informed decision when that comes up to vote. So one more question regarding the facilities, for example, for the parks. We have some organizations that use our facilities, for example, HSA. And, what kind of agreement do we have with them? And in terms of any lease or any payments that are being made for those facilities, are they competitive, for example, across the board? And we can compare them to some of the other cities that lease out their facilities. And is it, maybe a better option to have it leased out by someone else? Can you guys provide some information on that?
I don't have all the numbers off the top of my head. I definitely can look into see what specifically the lease agreements say and what the payment being received from them.
I can provide info. So past, again, we talk about mission versus profit. So there's been a decision whenever those buildings were first offered to those agencies to offer them at, I think it's $1 a year or something. It's not a cost. It's a service being provided to the city at a city facility. We can look into options like that, but it's not rare that other cities use city property with partnerships like that. I've seen situations with Boys and Girls Clubs and YMCAs and groups like that that pay $1 a year. I've seen cities be on, say, county land for $1 a year, types of things where there's a mission versus a profit. Yes, if we're trying to look under every couch cushion for that every dime, it's something that we could pursue to see. Usually the partners don't have a capacity to pay like a market rate. So we're talking about evicting them and, trying to bring in a store or something, which we can. But a question is, are we here for profit? Or are we here for a different mission?
Yeah, and most
That's
of your
the
partners are
part.
nonprofit, so
Yeah.
it's not like
Yeah.
they have a big budget to pay. So then that gets transferred on
Yeah.
to the community.
So if
like
a
you said,
council
you're gonna
has
be
a
charging
desire,
instead of $80, you're going to charge you $200 to play. Then
Yeah.
you're not going to have anybody who's going to play.
and so that's just the question. The council would have to have a decision or direction to give to staff to say that we want to pursue, highest and best cost value versus, say, community value. And we can do that, but at this point, that hasn't been the direction. But as far as finding efficiencies, as mentioned, we are looking for those. We're finding those where we can. And I come from having been at many, many cities, and I came into the city out of the gate seeing a very lean city. And everyone might look at every generic city and say they're all the same, but they're not. The amount of police officers per capita, usually the low average is 1 per 1,000. So if we have 95,000 people here, we should have 95 sworn. And we've had 68 to 70. We're right now just hitting 80. We should have 15 more, not less. When we talk about how many people in our community development department that handle planning, building, and code enforcement, I came from the city of Newport Beach with 86,000 people, and they had 70 people in that department. And we have, when you take housing out, about 28. So you talk about where's the fat, where's the extra staffing? Yes, we have some opportunities to find some efficiencies, but we are very lean coming out of the gate. So I do appreciate we want to look for those efficiencies, but this is not a city sitting there with tons of extra people sitting there.
All right, that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the presentation. So our next presentation is number 3, results of the, oh, sorry. Do we have any public comment on item number 2?
Jimmy Ozeda, Southgate resident. I guess when I'm kind of reflecting on the planning commission, it really is an awareness campaign, right? An awareness campaign to just educate people, inform people the status of our city. But yet we're continuing to miss the ball. Like today, last planning commission meeting, we didn't have translation. This time we can't even get PowerPoints up. I've been advocating, pushing people to come be a part of these meetings, tune in, because they're not available to come here. It's a privilege to be here. I mean, I was fortunate enough to drive for an hour and a half for my last meeting on the west side. Not everybody has that luxury. Not everybody has the privilege of not having to go to another part-time job. So when people say, hey, you know what, it's only $7 out of $100, that's a little bit disconnected from who we are as a city. There's a lot of folks here that $7 is a big thing. When we're looking at, so I was just inclined to say a few things. So one is that's a big thing. I spoke to a lot of my neighbors over the last couple of days in regards to the utility users tax, folks that are just very disconnected. I think my mission as I got involved with the city here as a volunteer was to really get people civically engaged. And, the more that we continue to advocate folks to get involved, the more that they keep falling short. They're feeling like they're not taking into account. They're feeling maybe the information isn't getting to them. I share this with you not because you're not trying, it's just because there's still opportunities there. So I got about 100+ people that said they don't support the utility users tax. They can't do that. They just can't. They just said, you know, they just don't trust that the resources that are going to be coming into the city are really going to help uplift their quality of life. And we said it here. This isn't going to add anything new to us. It's just going to try to make us whole, if that. And there's still going to be additional services that are need to be cut because there's no way that this is a long-term solution. You heard it straight from our staff. Neighboring cities have used utility users tax. They've had other type of taxes, and they're in the same financial mess that we find ourselves in. In some cases, it just kicked the can, right? So until we start really kind of getting to the need of it, to the root of it, we're going to continue to find ourselves in this financial mess. It goes back to city staff and council members building trust with residents. It starts with transparency. A lot of my neighbors have asked, you know, there's a second survey that's being administered. There was an initial survey that was administered. We paid over about $150,000 for a consultant to administer that survey. Folks have said, what were the results of that survey? What was the questionnaire? City staff said, oh, the questionnaires weren't done correctly. You know, we scratched that. Who approved those surveys? Who reviewed those surveys? There's no way, you know, I've consulted in the past. There's no way that I would have administered a survey without getting my client to approve it. So that's about transparency. You know, my assumption is maybe we didn't hear what we wanted to hear, which is folks are eager to get taxed. You know, one of our colleagues up there, council member, said, hey, who'd like to get taxed? Raise your hand. Well, shoot, we've spent $150,000 to figure that out, right? So what's it going to cost now for the city to actually get the utility users tax on the ballot? If we want to get on the June ballot, what is that going to cost our city? If we get on the November ballot, what is that going to cost our city? Because all we keep doing is just spending money and spending money. And clearly this is hopefully an option, hopefully a solution. But when push comes to shove, everything has to be on the table. You know, being a part of any nonprofit, for-profit entity, being a service-oriented organization like this entity, it starts with making sure that you stay within your means. Because if you want to serve people, you can't serve people, you can't keep your doors open. You can't provide more services if you can't keep your lights on. So we're at a point where we have to look in the mirror and say, what can we do? Not what we want to do. Because ultimately, if you don't have money, you can't provide services. No matter how great our nonprofits are, you know, it's tough for them to go and try to raise prices just to provide a service. It's just not doable. So we have to put everything on the table, ask ourselves, where can we create efficiencies? And to your point, it is an awareness campaign. So let's see those efficiencies that you guys have been able to identify. Let's see how we've been able to kind of find some money here and find some money there. But ultimately, I go back to staff. If there's anybody in this city that doesn't want the city to be successful, shame on them, right? Like, we all want everyone to be successful here, because if you're successful, our city's successful and our residents are successful. So I share this not because I'm being hypercritical of you, and yeah, I got like 10 seconds, hypercritical of you, but it's because our community deserves more. And it starts with being informed, and it starts with transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we'll close session item number 2, move on to presentation number 3, results of.
Chair,
Sorry.
so could I just do one closing statement?
Sure, go
Just, sorry to take your time. I just want to appreciate everyone's input, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I think, to the point of the speaker, the goal of this is to educate so that more leaders, because we will not be able to get myself, my finance director, are not going to be able to speak to 95,000 people. And it's the leaders in our community getting educated and then starting to share and be leaders and be proponents and be, you know, able to answer those questions. And so that's why we've come to our planning commissioners, to our parks commissioners, to help you know more. So, because the community looks to you. Many of the people in your neighborhoods are going to look to you as leaders, not to us. They're going to trust you and commissioners, not maybe us. And so the more you know and the more questions that you answer, we'd love for you to be spokesman and to have the city's back, and then to propose to be a fan of this versus maybe a critic. And so we're looking for that. And if there's questions that still need to be answered, we're happy to do it, but we know that it's going to take all of us, and we hope we can all partner together to be leaders. Thank you.
Quick
Thank you.
question or comment, if it's not happening yet. Do we have the presentation available in Spanish on the website?
Yes, it's uploaded in both English and Spanish. The Spanish version is slide per slide translated.
Awesome. I'll make sure to look for it in case I need it again.
It's under the budget and transparency. There is a tab called UUT Education, and it's going to be at the top of that page.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll close out item number 2. Presentation number 3 is the results of Parks Survey.
Let's see if she can. Can you just double click on the presentation and stuff. Okay, well. So coming up, what they have our Southgate Community Park Improvement Survey that we did a few months back. Yeah, okay. We did a few months back. So these are just some of the results from it. I know we went over briefly with some of the results, I think in the month of September, but I wanted to show you more of the graphs so you get a better visual of it. So these are going over some of the questions that were asked in the survey, and basically the survey was done just to find out, because of the fact that we were not, well, with the master plan, and we weren't able to go through with the master plan, people were saying, well, how do we find out information from the community, and how do we get, how do we find out what people want? So we decided to do this to find out what people want. So we put it out there. It was running from, I want to say April through August. And we put it out at all of our events. I know some of you were at some of our events helping to promote it.
How many people submitted?
About 500, roughly. But we were at, everywhere. We had those things everywhere going around, making sure that get as many people as possible to fill out the survey. So the first question asked was, how often do you visit one of our Southgate parks? As you can see, majority of the people that did the survey are people who visit the park at least 3 to 4 times a week, which is a decent average. And then once a week, at least 21% of those people once a week. And as you can see, the pie goes a little bit lower, for twice a month, twice every 6 months, or once or twice a year. And then which parks do you visit? So as you can see from the results there, that the majority of the people visit Southgate Park, which is our largest park and has the most amenities for the community, and then followed by Hollydale Regional, and then right after that is Hollydale Community. And then the last one, like Southgate Dog Park, was actually a little higher than some of our other parks that we have to offer.
Urban Orchard isn't there yet.
Urban Orchard wasn't on there yet because it wasn't, yeah. And then what types of amenities would you like to see added to the parks? So these were the top 5 or 6 different things there that people wanted. Was 1, splash pad; 2 is playground updates, walking and jogging paths, pickleball courts, and improved lightings. And so from that, I know we've done some improvements on our playgrounds. We'll continue to do a little bit more improvements. Walking and jogging paths, we definitely have additional paths with the addition of Hollydale Community Park, and we have that nice path to walk around there, as well as Urban Orchard. And then pickleball courts, we have the pickleball courts that were added on at Circle Park, and I know we're going to be doing some renovations to our tennis courts with some funding that came in, so it's not going to be a cost to the city to make some pickleball courts at Southgate Park, which currently we have the portable courts that are there. So we're kind of excited about that. And then improved lighting is another one, which is there's a big cost to that. So trying to figure out how to do that one is something that we have to definitely look into. And the splash pad, which I know Mr. Mario Dominguez has been asking for a while, but again, there's a huge cost to that for both putting it in and the maintenance and servicing. And then would you prefer that we focus on upgrading existing amenities or adding new ones? Most of the people said, I think the current amenities could just be improved. Actually, no, majority of people said that they're open to both upgrading or adding new. And then the other big portion of that was that they think that what we have should just be improved. And there's only 10% of the people who said that they like new additions. And then if we were to upgrade the existing amenities, which of the following would be our priority? So number 1 on the list was restroom facilities, in which we heard mentioned many, many times. I mean, as we've spoken in the past, our city is over 100 years old now, so the infrastructure and things are they're not all brand new and up to date unless we're looking at our brand new parks. And so that's definitely something that we are cognizant of, and it's just, again, goes back to finding the funding to be able to create upgrades to some of these facilities. So restrooms would be number one. Number two is our playground equipment, followed by lighting for safety, which is number three. So, I mean, lighting seems to be a big priority for our residents, or the ones who actually filled out the survey. This slide kind of goes back and ties back into the one that we just previously went, because you still have the same thing with walking and jogging paths and such. And then, do you have any suggestions for additional comments or suggestions for any park improvements? One, going back again, clean and stock bathrooms, more security, upgrading park facilities, dogway stations, and clean playgrounds more. So definitely something that we can take into consideration. And, depending on moving forward, some of these we can address immediately. Others takes a little bit more funding and stuff to do. And then, do you have any suggestions on new programs and activities you would like to see offered at one of our parks? More outdoor classes, more senior activities, outdoor toddler activities, boxing and self-defense classes, and golf and tennis classes. So this is, I think that's the last slide. There, yeah. So that basically breaks down the survey that we offered to the people. I mean, I know that the last time we spoke, some of you guys were asking for a different type of survey. The purpose of this survey was just to find out what is it the people want. But if I know some of you guys had mentioned, like, we do other surveys, we most definitely can. And just to see what's out there. Again, the hard part for us is just trying to get the people to fill them out. And with every survey that we do, we can do more and more and more. But as we put the surveys out and we leave them at the parks, it's going to be the exact same people filling out those surveys, because those are the people who are utilize the park and engaged, like actively engaged in our parks.
Is this available on the website?
We can put that up.
When it'll be
We can
available
put it.
soon, or it's
Yeah,
not?
we can put it up. Like,
Okay,
make sure.
but it's not right now, right?
It's not right now.
Okay.
No.
Then if you could let social media know when it's on
Yeah.
on the website, so we can post it, or even put this directly on social media. People
Yeah,
can see it.
I can have staff do that.
Thank you. Any comments?
I'm just curious, what do you know what avenue was the most successful to get engagement?
I think our largest park is Southgate Park, and I think the sports center has the most use. So I think having just the QR codes up within the park, and then putting them in just our high traffic areas was probably the most, and just having our staff just being out there encouraging people, like, hey, do your survey, hey, do your survey. Even at our events, we would have QR codes at all of our events, the Easter events, all of them, wherever we had our boards, we'd have QR codes everywhere, and just telling people to fill them out. And again, I don't, that's what's.
But you didn't get like visibility of traffic. Like, was it people using a certain QR code in one location versus online?
No, it was just
that.
one QR code that
And
we
everyone-
put up
oh,
everywhere, and
okay.
everybody just kind of went out and
Just curious.
any other questions?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Is this something that's going to be ongoing? Are we going to continue to survey and just have people respond? I know that 500 people isn't really representative of the population, and I would like to see that go on there. I mean, I know that city manager and Luis Frausto said that they were going to send something out in the water bill. I think that would be a great opportunity also. Is it in the Southgate Connect?
This part, no, because this survey ended. It's
closed.
So
Okay.
when we actually put it out there, and I had informed everyone that we were going to go out there all the way through the end of summer to see what we could get. And this is the first time we do a survey, so we didn't know what we were going to get. So now seeing this, now we have other avenues and other ideas, and that's actually a great idea, is to put it in the Connect for future surveys and stuff like that, because it goes to every household.
Sure. And I know we spoke about possibly having like large boards that display the QR code, because I know when I went to Urban Orchard, it was an 8.5 by 11 sheet that was very difficult to see. Was a
We
service?
had it at a booth. That's why it was at
Right.
8.5. But we had at the park, we actually had it on like the big sandwich boards,
Poster
the
board,
big,
yeah.
Mhm.
A-frame boards, and it was on a bigger thing. So depending on what it was, so some areas had it on the bigger thing, other areas had it on smaller
Sure.
So-
And actually, I think my colleague brought up a good point, right? I think a good question to add would be, where did you see the QR code, or that way we know and we can kind of focus on where it's working the best. Was the survey still going on during the 4th or the Halloween time, or was it?
No,
Okay.
the survey specifically just went through the end of summer.
Summary.
Initially, it was going to be a shorter period of time, but we extended it you guys had requested that. And you
Right.
guys extended, so we extended it to the end of summer to see what we'd get, because initially it was a slow start, just getting people to respond. But again, this is our first time doing the survey, so we didn't know how effective it was going to, or like,
Yeah, and it's difficult. I know, to engage people and have them respond, especially if the survey is 20 questions long. So I understand that, but I think that if we continue to do that and it's ongoing, and maybe have JAA do it, have AYSO do it, have the swims team do it, and all that, I think we can get a larger response for that. I think that would be a good opportunity to get some feedback and try to make some adjustments for that. So I hope to see it, be something that we do, throughout the year. I know that I've been to many parks that as soon as you're driving in or walking in, there's a sign that says, "How are we doing?" Right? And feedback, any organization, whether it's private, nonprofit, or public, always wants to know how they can improve, right? And so I think that that's going to be something that if we focus on, can definitely get some good feedback. So thank you.
we try to keep it short and sweet, because we knew that if we went too many questions, we try to make them as check the box. 'Cause once you start having them like write sentences in it just doesn't go well. And I'm not spending time doing this. So we try
Exactly.
to keep it concise, short,
That's
and
me.
just trying to get a little bit of information from the community.
Great.
Yeah, I think even saying that, take the short survey, and it'll be like no more than 5 minutes or something, or 4 minutes. That's helpful.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this?
Great job administering the survey. I think anytime you can start being data-driven as any entity, I think it only opens up the doors. And, keeping that open line of communication, I think, is critical, especially for a community that really values, I think, the jewel of our city is really Southgate Park. Want to definitely give kudos on the Cesar Chavez kind of park. I know there was one other question, like, what would you like to see improvements on? I think one of the best areas I think that I've seen manicured is between California and Otis. Like, that stretch of park on Cesar Chavez is amazing. It'd be great to see that same type, some of those elements out farther on the west side where, the Cesar Chavez initially kind of started, but we all know that there's limited resources on that good stuff, right? And I would probably echo what the commissioner mentioned. Connect would be a great place to just have the QR code there. Big poster boards. I went to some of the events. I think one of the commissioners said they were going to concerts and there was hundreds of people there. So like maybe having that up on the stage or off on the stage, big QR code, I think would have gone a long way. I think the survey was in English and in Spanish.
Do we do both? I think this one was just in English.
Yeah. So maybe
That's something that we had.
thinking about that, and when you put on the Connect, since maybe right next to each other, English, Spanish, Espanol, and then that'd be just another great way to get input. But it's a first step, right? We have to start somewhere. So the first survey, hopefully of many. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I think the mic, hit the mic. Yeah.
Oh, there it goes.
There you go.
There you go.
Hello again. My name is Maria Cortez. So I have been asked in the past. I did send out the survey. At the time, we had about 200 probably when the QR code went out. So I did send it out to our coaches and to our parents. But I am being asked, like, what is the purpose of the survey if there's no money in the budget? How are we going to get the funds for it, or how is this going to work? And going forward, now that AYSO has reached over 450 players, I can send out the QR code or the survey again, and maybe because we have how many residents? Over 90,000 for
95,000.
500 that we received, like somebody stated. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Do you have any final comment?
No, just,
Okay.
just taking into consideration all what was mentioned and seeing how we can come up with a different survey to target different things, just to keep the community, their ideas or thing, and just hopefully we can get more community members next time to just join in so that we have a better picture of the entire community, not just selected groups or just certain people, you know.
And I think what she was asking too about why fill it out? What do we
Oh.
get out of it? It's my understanding, right, that in lieu of updating the master plan, the surveys give the city the idea of what kind of, even with our limited funding, what to focus on. And, God forbid, we do have to do cuts. I think that might even play an important role into really looking at what people want, what they deem as important in the city. So
Yeah, absolutely. Just not being able to finish up that or to start the new master plan. So this is definitely giving us just some input from the community.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll go ahead and close presentation number 3. We're down to our open session items. Quick question. Do we want to table our open session items to the next meeting?
we have our police officer finally here, right? So can we get that at least in?
Okay, so proposal is then to just hear the open session item number 1 and table item session number 2 to the next meeting. Is that something we agree on?
A motion.
All right,
do that.
sounds good. Okay, so then for open session item number
You have
1,
to do, you have to do a vote. So you have a
Okay.
motion, but you need a
Do-
second.
I'll second.
got a motion? Okay, thank you. All in favor?
So he made the motion. And then this second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll start with open session item number 1, oral report on park safety by police department.
Good evening. Unfortunately, I was a last minute call. I think we missed the assignment to be here. When it comes to park safety, the police department takes it very, very seriously. One of the things, the obstacles we're facing right now is we're facing a manpower issue, meaning the concerns with whether it's the homelessness or different ordinance violations in the park. We are currently assisting Mr. Massey with hiring more park rangers. So at the moment, we are at a deficit with park rangers to help with our enforcement and with our security with that. Can you hear me okay? I'm sorry.
Yes.
So right now, we're currently asked for park rangers. We currently have 1 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff. We are in process of hiring 1 more full-time and 4 more part-time.
Okay.
So I think that will actually, once we get them on board, I think that will actually help with our security and with more of our enforcement and our outreach. Are there any other concerns you were looking for or more for police presence?
I actually have seen better police presence at the park. I know you're saying that it's not there or it's lessened, but I mean, I've been to a few practices with my granddaughter on the outside basketball courts, and just there within 1 hour, and there's a couple of passes by, a couple of stops. So I mean, it wasn't there before.
Well, thank you. We, even though we're short-staffed, we still take the security at the parks as a priority, and we try to make sure that our response time is at the minimal at best. So
I think the
we try.
presence even visibly there. I take my
sure.
my baby to South. Well, I've been going to pretty much all the parks, but I've definitely seen them at Southgate Park, at Holidale Park, just driving through, and I think it's always reassuring to see them nearby.
Yeah, and like I said, I've been a coach at the park for many years, playing on those outside courts. The guys in the corner in the first court smoking marijuana, and the kids are just like, "What's that smell?" I'm like, I'll tell you later." But like I said, just this opportunity to be with my granddaughter out there and seeing police presence and them actually stopping and talking to these guys is a big difference than what I've seen years ago. So
Right.
I really appreciate that what we've asked for has been taken very, heavy by you guys and not taken lightly. So thank you for that.
Well, we take it seriously. I think the quality of life and the expectations of the citizens with their park and what they enjoy, whether it's the municipal code ordinances or even our homeless issue. One of the things we try to make sure that we provide resources for them as well.
Right.
As we work closely with LA County, we're trying to make sure that we're out there and we're providing resources and the availability. So we'll continue to keep working hard and giving the citizens a better quality of life.
So I know you were thrown into this last second, but usually what we're looking for is some numbers. Usually what has occurred since the last meeting with you guys, and number of occurrences that have happened. What are your main focuses, things like that. So again, I know you're thrown into it, so you may not have that.
Well, so for Southgate Park, we actually had, so far this year, we've had 228 calls for services. At our State Street Park, we've had 16. At our Cesar Chavez Park, we've had 2. At our Hollydale Regional Park, we've had 89 calls for services. And then at our Hollydale Community, we've had 10 calls for services.
Okay.
Like I said, we've always done our best to respond in a timely manner and, make sure that all the citizens feel safe and that quality of life is at a premium.
Do you know if those numbers are an
That's
increase
what I
or
was gonna
decrease from?
You know what? I do not know if the numbers have increased or decreased.
It's pretty impressive though that you pulled.
Yeah. And from those, do you know if the results of those calls?
I do not know.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Like I said, I understand you were thrown into this, but those are the kind of things we're looking for. Is just the calls, the responses, what you were able to accomplish on those calls, things like that. With a high, again, there could be simple calls like, oh, these guys are arguing over here. You're responding to those things, but if there's bigger issues, somebody got stabbed, somebody got injured, or something as a result of a fight or something. We want to know
You want the complete breakdown.
yeah, those kind of breakdowns, just to again, we see the presence, but the appreciation I don't think goes far enough. And when we hear those results, it really goes for the community to really appreciate what the police department is doing for us.
And I can say that the last couple times that we've had a couple incidences with some theft and stuff happening on one side of the park, and immediately when the call was made, they were able to make arrests on 3 different individuals that took off running, and they were on it. Another time we just had, I think too, it's Glenn and whoever it is who's scheduling the. I'm not sure if that's you, Glenn, who schedules out the Rangers, but some of the Rangers times, because we're low on the Rangers, we've tried to be strategic about the times that they're being scheduled.
Yeah.
And more toward the evening when we have more people at the park versus the morning hours. So I think that also helps. Just
sure.
extra eyes out there. And I know that one of the times there was a Rangers right there when things happen, and makes it nice that they have that direct connect to the PD to be able to get an officer out immediately. And again, they were able to catch the criminals there, and it just.
And it's good that you have
extremely
that data. You have the data of when the high times are, because
Yeah.
again, if you're adding a few Rangers and some part-time, you want to put those people in the right places. You don't want
Right.
a part-time person at 8:00 in the morning. You
Right. When
you want them there at
when
4
we have
o'clock.
just our walkers going
Yeah.
on. So I think
Yeah.
strategically we've been trying to work, be smart about how the scheduling is done to
Makes
make sure
sense.
that, it has the best watch going on in the evening hours.
The bang
Great.
for your buck is what it is.
Yeah, exactly right.
When it's most active. And one of the things we try to make sure officers are always patrolling through the park, but collectively, even with the public works and the parks works, when there's an issue, they all call and they know we'll respond as fast as possible. So I think that's a great collaboration with all the resources and all the organizations. So we have a great rapport with each other. So it's awesome.
And Glenn, just a quick question on the park rangers.
Yes.
Are they allowed to talk to citizens about their dogs
Yes.
being inside the park or
Mhm.
off a leash or anything like that? 'Cause
Yes.
that's one of my biggest pet peeve is when I'm watching a game going on at the park or something, and there's a guy with this big old Rottweiler walking by me. You know, it's like,
Yeah. It's a challenge. It's
yeah.
quite
I know it's supposed to be outside the park. They're
Yeah.
allowed outside the park, but they're right walking through the middle. So
It was before this commission, but yeah, it was the commission that requested that at the time.
yeah,
It's one of those things, unfortunately. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's probably I know it's a cost. Any paper is a cost, things like that. But maybe even handing out a flyer saying, "Hey, you know,
Yeah.
this is where it's allowed. This is where it's not allowed."
Ironically, I'd recently done that. About 2 months ago, I started doing that, and I started having the security company doing that during the mornings. With security's there in the mornings, and then in the afternoon is when the park rangers come in, and so the hourly will cover the times that the full timer is not there. And before, when we had two and two, essentially, it was working fantastic. But unfortunately, things change and people
Yeah.
move on and such. So yeah, I try to schedule it that way. And of course, the evenings are more busy, so
Right.
that's when I'm going to have the full timer there more often, and use the security for just that. They handed out a bunch of flyers, and that really caused a stir, so to speak, and caught attention of folks. And they started asking questions, and so the word is out there. I've noticed a bit of reduction, and so I'm going to continue this campaign and have them hand out more flyers again, because I really see them a lot in the mornings. And this day and age, people are obstinate, is a kind way to put it. And I found it very challenging to, even for myself, to walk up to people and say, by the way, you know, it's on all the trash cans. There's signs there at every entrance to every facility, and the rules are there posted. Please pay attention to the rules. And they get quite verbal with me. So,
Right.
yeah.
I don't know if it's applicable here, but regarding the wire theft that happened at the Circle Park, is there any security measures or any kind of maybe police? I mean, I guess it's hard to kind of go around and patrol, but is it just something that has to do with just how the access is for that?
I
or-
can answer. A lot of what's going on at Circle Park is the finishing the construction. And so technically it was still under the purview of the contractor at the time. And so, yeah, you're not going to necessarily have so much of a security presence there. Afterwards, that's something we can look at as a team as well.
Thank you.
I know it's not easy because those people get creative apparently.
Oh, absolutely. I think we've
One
got
of
a-
your concerns is that a lot of the theft is, we believe it's coming from our transient nature. And so access to the park from the riverbed is really, really easy. And so one of the things that the PD has done is we've actually have increased our routine and our route through Circle Park and some of the other parks on the east side. And so we've been, I think we've been making some significant results, and we're making contact. So that's one of the things we're also taking an active role with.
And I
That's
think
good to
even in
know
our-
because
Yeah,
I'm
good to
sure
hear.
the residents around there appreciate it as well.
even in our newer parks, I think we've taken as many measures that we could to make it as difficult as possible for wire theft to happen. But there's a will, there's a way, and these people they figure it out. So
Oh, they always do.
Well, unfortunately, when the crime occurs, it's about 3 o'clock in the morning. It's in the wee hours, whereas
Yeah.
it's dark, limited lighting, and us as we respond to different calls, all of our calls are prioritized.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have to
So-
pick and choose which ones you're going to attend to.
But when we have downtime, we make sure that one of the things I try to make sure is that we send officers out to do area checks, just so that at least they know that we're checking, and that we have a presence.
That's always good. Thank you.
Well, thank you. If there's no other comments, can we get a motion to receive and file?
Yeah, I have a few comments.
Okay.
Regarding communication amongst security, park ranger, and PD, can you tell me how that takes place with
Well-
regards to what's going on in the parks?
Normally, the security, Mr. Massey's group will deal with the security, but as for the park rangers, if they need our assistance, we're just an email or a phone call away. So whenever there's a concern or we're notified of it, one of the things we reach out, as a watch commander, I reach out to all my patrol sergeants and teams, and we put a overall broadcast. Like I'll put out a request to make sure that we pay special attention to a certain area, so that we have a presence there. So whenever there's a concern, we reach out to one another quickly through a mass email.
And so, for example, if there are any areas that need attention or improvement or such, how does that take place? Is that something that goes through Glenn, or is that something that comes to the PD, and who reports that?
Well, it depends on what we're talking about. For example, I'm in charge of the homeless outreach. So whenever there's a concern with homeless encampments or outreach for homeless or the mental health, then I will reach out to my team and we actually set things up. For example, we've been in collaboration with Union Pacific Railroad, and we just recently did the railroad tracks from Otis and Independence all the way to Atlantic. 3 weeks ago, we did Garfield Garfield and Firestone at El Paseo, all the way across the tracks into Downey. Just yesterday, we were in collaborations with LA County Public Works, and they just did the Rio Hondo riverbed. And then the rest of this week, they'll be doing all of the riverbed and the LA Channel, where we're working with the homeless cleanup and everything. So that's what I take care of. That's what I oversee. So that's one of the things where if a citizen has a complaint, or they reach out to the city council, or they reach out to the city manager, or to my chief, he'll relay that to me. And then my team, we try to take a proactive role. For example, with Union Pacific, we try to pick a location every month. So October, we did Little Alameda, all the way from Firestone all the way down to MLK. And so we try to be very consistent with how we take care of that homeless outreach, so we have a better quality of life. So each watch commander has different tasks where we try to make sure we maintain the quality of life for all the citizens. My task is the homeless outreach and the mental health program. So I can speak confidently of that.
Is there someone specifically that's a watch commander for the park, for example? Like you're in charge for homelessness, is there someone for the park?
Not specifically for the park.
Yeah. So Glenn, for example, like, I know that my colleague mentioned the marijuana smoke. I walk at the park a few times a week, and that's an ongoing problem. The gambling that takes place there. I know someone told me there was a fight there not too long ago where the gambling takes place. Is there a debrief, for example, with the security guards and the park rangers to bring those items up and look for solutions and work with PD to do that? And can you walk us through how that takes place?
Well, typically the park rangers they observe, report, and they bring things to the attention of the police department. And there's that interaction there between myself. If we get complaints from the public, or if they see something specific, then we can deal with it. But that's just about it. I mean,
But I think the
But specifically, like with the security guards and the park rangers, right? Like things that they're seeing, for example, that are ongoing and they may need support with, or just, they have ideas to address it. Is there like a debrief or a report that takes place that you can maybe share with us?
they routinely communicate between each other. So I'll see the park ranger will come to me and say, "Oh, I was talking to this security guy, and he brought this to my attention." And yeah, there's this constant interaction between the two of them, the two groups, and PD.
But I think the gambling situation is a completely different situation itself, because from my understanding and what Steve explained to me when I first got here, it's like we have this, and that. So it's not that we're not aware or ignore it or pretend it doesn't exist. The problem is that even when PD has gone out there, there's no money there's nothing that's visually seen where there's money that's being exchanged. So how they do what they do, and there's been police that's gone out there time and time and time again, but because they can't catch them in the act, you can't prove it. So they're playing cards.
Yeah, that's been going on for decades.
They're
I've been
playing cards.
dealing with
And
that
so
for decades.
that's one of the biggest things. I think that's the first thing that people consistently throw at us. You don't do anything about the gamblers. It's like, we try, but when they go out there, they can't catch them in the act. And as long as there's no proof, there's no evidence, like what, there's nothing that they can
Yeah.
do.
There's been smoking when I've walked through there, and that's something that can be addressed, right? If my understanding is that there's no smoking in all of the park.
Correct. No
So-
smoking.
So, I mean, again, I know that there's some things that you have to be able to prove, obviously, and if you can't prove, then you really can't do much about it. But the things that we can prove and the things that we can observe, I think those would be good to focus on. But,
And I think we do even from the park standpoint, because there's many times that our staff will call and like, hey, there's people smoking. By the time they get there, they're gone.
Yep.
There's been a few times where they've got a couple drinkers behind the sports center, and they were able to roll up on them and they caught them there. But it's like far and few between, because as soon as these people see that there's a cop coming, it's gone. Throw it out, walk away. So again, just trying to, it's
Sure.
just difficult to.
I think it's like the struggle probably is that our parks are so large that the line of sight to police officer is really easy. So they evade it as soon as they see them in the vicinity.
But there's a lot of deterrence involved also with the security company. Before they're brought back, oh my gosh, I mean, we had nothing but problems. And just that presence alone, the amount of inappropriate behavior went down tremendously. And so it was, I don't get complaints anymore from folks the routine complainers, so to speak, not to be mean or anything, but yeah, there's been a significant drop in just poor behavior in the park, essentially. And it's very obvious.
And is that documented, for example? Like, how do we know we're making some progress and what we still need to focus on and what has sort of been mitigated?
Well, it's kind of like it comes and goes. Things come in waves. And the park rangers will bring that to my attention. Hey, by the way, we know it's an uptick on more dogs in the park, or there's more graffiti. Or, oh, by the way, Glenn, they caught this guy doing graffiti. And that's a great thing that happens, because usually they don't get caught. So there's been improvement. And so we all talk amongst each other, and along with staff from the police department, it's brought to our attention, or we'll bring something to the rangers' attention that we see, or somebody from the public, like you see something and they bring it to my attention. And then I say, hey, by the way, this park patron came to me about this. Hey, can you take care, keep an eye on that? And so, yeah, they change from month to month, or week to week, or day to day. And we just try to focus on these new occurrences, these trends, so to speak.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to receive and file?
I so move.
Any comments from the public?
Huh?
Oh, any
A
comment
public
from-
comment?
Do we have any public comments on this?
No.
Okay. Can I get a motion to receive and file?
I so move.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I didn't get your name. What was your name?
I'm Lieutenant Bolar.
Bar?
Bolar.
Bogar. Oh,
B-O-L-A-R.
thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate your presentation.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll close our open item sessions. Director's report.
So for director's report, just wanted to go over a few events that we had recently. One of them being our Winter Wonderland event, which was a week ago, which was our Milaklikimaka. So it was pretty well attended event. We had the snow out there, all the jumpers out there. We had a lot of community members performing, all the kids at the stage, including the high school band came back this year. And so we were excited to have them back. We invite them every year, but they're not always available. And then we had the addition of the mariachi band that also came out this year. Every year we're trying to improve things and make things better, and so we try to do different things. One of the things that we didn't do this year was offer wristbands, which not sure what the consensus was from the people. I didn't hear too much either way regarding the wristbands, but it was helpful to some extent, but then it caused problems in other ways. So it was a little bit different because we had a lot longer line for the the toy giveaway because we didn't do the time slots. But I mean, all in all, the kids seem to have a great event. We still passed out our hot chocolate and churros to the kids. I know that there was some, some negative comments we made via social media. And I think that just understanding that if we attempted to pass out the churros and hot chocolate at 4 o'clock, one, it was still warm outside, and it wouldn't, so that's one thing. And then two, that thing goes so quickly that we would run out so fast. So we try to do it after Santa Claus comes. I know people said like the event starts at 4. So, but how do we do a Santa giveaway when Santa doesn't arrive till 6? So the tree's being lit. So that's why the toy giveaway begins at 6 and not at 4. And so we try to, no matter what you do, you're always going to have some sort of negative criticism going either way. But when the event's planned out, it's planned out to be, to offer as many different activities that we can do for the entire community. And if we start things too early, then we're going to get like, I don't get out of work till 5 and I can't take my kids there and it's not fair. So again, no matter which way you go, you're going to hear about it. But so far, this is what's been working for us and what's been successful. So while we do, listen to all our suggestions and we take that into consideration for like, future years planning, that's kind of how we do our events. But that was that event. We also had our community picking day, which we did this past Tuesday. So it was our first one. That was actually really exciting. I was sad that I couldn't be there for the entire time. I had to come to another meeting, but I was there when we kicked it off, and it was people started walking in. I know Liz was there with her daughter, and then we had a few people, families of 4, a couple seniors that came over from the Thunderbird Villas, and so it was good. It wasn't something that was completely overwhelming to where it was like we didn't have enough fruit. Everybody that attended got a decent amount of fruit that they were able to take home. Everything from squash, avocados, limes, lemons, kumquats. There was some Serrano chilies there.
Some oranges.
Oranges. So if you haven't had the opportunity, make sure when the next harvest comes around that you show up there, because I guarantee you I was able to taste some of the oranges and they were very good, very sweet. Avocados, once you pull them off, you just let them ripen about a week or so and on points. They're very good. So just looking forward to the next things. I know right now there's some other vegetables going. There's onions and carrots and other stuff. So some lettuce that's growing. So just looking forward to the next event and just future events, because I think it's awesome that this, I think that was one of the biggest questions I was asked was like, does the community actually get to benefit from this? Or is it just, everything's going to be gone and doesn't go to the community? And like, this is just proof that yes, the community does get to benefit from it. And it's awesome that we get to do that. So that's that event. Upcoming events, we have our, this weekend, we have our Santa breakfast going on at 9 a.m., which was sold out. It'll be at the auditorium. Immediately following that event, we have our Surfing with Santa event at 2 p.m. at the pool. And then on Sunday, we have the parade that's going to be taking place on Tweedy, and that parade starts at 12 noon. So if you have your tickets for Santa breakfast or Surfing with Santa, you're on point. And for those of you, everybody's invited to the parade, so you invite your friends and neighbors out there, and it's good to have it back on Tweedy again. I think it just provides more space, and I think it's a great location for the parade. So
New pavement.
what was that?
The new pavement.
The new pavement, absolutely,
Yeah.
new pavement. So,
Off
yeah.
of Southern this time.
My turn.
Great.
My turn. All right.
Your turn, Glenn.
Currently, we're renovating the ball fields at Southgate Park. We're about halfway done.
What was that?
Renovating the ball fields
Oh.
at Southgate Park. We're about halfway done. And a lot of irrigation maintenance and repairs been done. Some 2-inch valves, 3-inch valves, 2-inch pipes, a lot of 1-inch pipes. We airified the ball, all of Southgate Park. Airification. That's when you take a machine towed behind a tractor, and it has long spikes, a bunch of them, rotating, and it creates cores. And the purpose of that, so just in case people ask, it takes a core down in the soil, takes it out. That way, the soil is airified. You get airification going on because you got all those people stomping all throughout the park. You're compacting the soil, and the turf's going, no! And so you got to airify that soil, break it up. Roots become healthier, more airified. You'll get more green growth, and people kind of wonder why. So kind of think of it as a haircut. You're giving it a haircut and rejuvenating it. And we received new trash barrels. Now, before Steve departed, he requested that we not put blue barrels anymore. He hated the blue barrels. So we've got green ones. So, I think they're a little brighter. And so maybe people won't run into them so much. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your reports. If there's any comments.
Yeah, just a quick one. I really appreciated the Urban Orchard. It was great seeing so many families there. I saw other people with their kids picking fruit. The Winter Wonderland I thought was great. The sled was fun. My crazy kid went on it like 3 times. Even though I don't know how she kept wanting to go. But the only comment I would probably relay from Commissioner Esquivel was the toddler bouncer. It was only up to 3. I have to admit, my baby's not even 2.5, but we went in. But 0 to 2, there was nothing. So I saw another comment about that too. But yeah, just to keep them in mind for the future events.
Yeah, that was my only comment too that I heard.
So
Everything else is great.
This event traditionally, we haven't programmed for the little ones in that manner, just for various reasons, from spacing to just different things with the line. So it's something to consider for next time.
Yeah.
As we do program, typically events that we hold at Southgate Park, which is like our Easter event and our Halloween event, we do our best. And that's something that's been a new addition that we purchased the equipment for. So
Yeah.
the rest of the jumpers that are out there are all rentals that we get out there, but that soft play is something that we offer, that we have, that's our own. So just something that for whoever takes over that event next year, just mention that to staff to see how we can incorporate it in.
And then out of curiosity too, it's the art opportunity for like crafts and stuff like that.
It is. It's this year was a little bit different because, like I said, the last couple of years, I mean, the area has been so crowded. Like, where do we put it, right? So that it's not that we don't want to do it, but where do we put it? This was the first year that we actually had it. Like, it seemed like it was a little bit more spaced out, and then I took out the snowball fight that we typically have, just because everything was just so compact, and then this line's crossing with that line, and I'm in this line. No, you're in that line, and so we're trying our best to just, again, every year we're trying to see how do we make it better? How do we fix things or fix problems from the previous year? And so when we do the events and things, and we're doing Easter and Halloween at Southgate Park, where we have a larger area, bigger space, we're able to section things off and do that. But here, we only have so much grass space, and we have to worry about, okay, well, there's a stair here, but the trees here, but the photo up there. So trying to get it all to work out, like, I guess we could put something, but it would be far at the end of Ardmore, like way by the corner. And it's like, is that going to be, are people going to go all the way down there to do a little craft? So just trying to program for it. Not that we don't want it, because it's something that has crossed my mind as we're putting the event together, but it's just kind of like, where?
Yeah. And no, all events should always have a beer garden.
What?
All events should always have a beer garden.
A beer.
Okay.
I just have a quick question on the orchard. Is there like I know it's harvesting, so it's very based on what's available, but is there going to be a schedule or scheduled like biannual, annual event, or?
Well, I think it's Glenn's our master of this stuff. So we're definitely, I mean, I think sometimes the trees produce a lot. I mean, there's certain time that they produce, but then sometimes it's like, oh, they didn't produce so much this year.
See, one thing I found, it's kind of funny, is that people don't know how to grow things. And I'm like, what? But and plus staff don't understand that they don't all grow at the same. They don't grow at the same pace. Things are going to be ripening at different times. So the kumquats and the lemons, the limes come on first, then the kumquats. Then you see what I mean? It's the lemons are the last. The oranges are the last thing. And then they go, well, why are they all splitting? Well, this year they all split because we had all that rain in October, November, and the fruit had already formed its skin. And so we went and, the powers to be in the sky dumped all this water, and then the inside grows more. There's a lot of moisture in the ground. So it just, boom, pops them open. Yeah. And so you got to take all these things into consideration. The other thing is, the stuff that we put in those planters, we really didn't plan for that. And we just, well, there's nothing in them. Let's throw some stuff in them. And then people come along and, all right, let's take it. That's cool. But yeah, we're like, well, let's just make it look more lively. And so, yeah, we have a lot of fruit now. That's great. So we have to do some coordination, and I got to speak with staff. Hey guys, let's try to coordinate this so that when maybe we could do it a couple times, you know, you do an initial one like we did this past week, but do it like a month ago, and then come by like a month later, 2 months later, and then the oranges are ripened, and maybe the avocados at the same time, because the other thing is there weren't a lot of avocados because a lot of people took them beforehand. It's an open park. The avocados were going to ripen at the same time as the limes. So we got to take all these things into consideration. And so, yeah, that's going to come to me. And
It's us just, I mean, this is all new for us too.
Exactly.
I mean, like not new, he knows how to grow, he knows how to do stuff, but it's still new for us and trying to figure out how do we plan it out?
And
Like
how
you said,
well is it
because
going to grow?
if we're going to advertise like, hey, come pick your fruit, we better have enough fruit so that you don't know
Right.
who's going to show up. And then
Yeah.
they'll show up and it's like, I came over here and there's no fruit. And so
The
It
PR
is-
was great on it too.
Yeah, it
what
was.
was that?
The PR.
Yeah, we did really, we tried to get it out there, but again, like, and at one point James got notified by some radio station and they interviewed him, and then then we started freaking out like the day before, like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have more people and not enough fruit, and what are we gonna do? But so it just, and we didn't know what to expect. It was our first one, and
Yeah,
then
I did hear the radio station commercial, and I was like, I don't
Yes.
think that park is that big to be announcing it to citywide that
Right,
there's
but because
free oranges.
right, but because this park was such a big deal because there's none like it in the area.
Got it. It got
So
attention.
it got a lot of attention from the onset, and so it's just like it just grew, and beyond us, like we had no idea, and we're like, oh man, and it's just tough trying to figure it out. And I think, even the gardens that they ended up planting stuff in, we're still working with the WRD and different groups to actually offer classes to be able to provide for the residents. So that's actually coming up soon, where we're gonna have some classes to teach people how to grow and do all that stuff. And that was the whole intent of
That's awesome.
the raised gardens there. But in the meanwhile, it was like empty. So then they started growing stuff in it, and then it was like, hey, that's cool. Like it's already growing. And so now we just got to figure out, okay, what garden areas or what beds are we going to use to grow, and which ones are we going to use for our classes, because we want to be able to do both. But I think it's cool that, if we keep some that are just for teaching purposes and then leave some to grow things, I think the community will just appreciate that.
Yeah.
But there's a
Okay.
little bit of both.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely that opportunity, because there's a lot of organizations in the area that teach growing, and so it's an opportunity to invite them and come out here. I know Tree People's been around for a long time, and so yeah, it's a beautiful space to add education around.
And we have a newer staff who's been assigned to the parks on that side, so she oversees that stuff. So that's where we had like the turkey walk, and it's just some other programming that we're trying to do that's low cost, because definitely we know where the budget's at, so that's a little more low cost, but trying to bring in some new things and trying to get people out there just to expose them to the park, and what's there, so there's little things that are up and coming and moving along the way, so just keep your eyes out for what's to come.
Thank you very much. So thank you for your
Yeah,
report.
I just have a quick question. Do we know how many people received, I don't know, what was it, oranges or avocados, like approximately? Do we have a
So
number?
we had people signing the sheet. So I want to say that it
was about 30.
30, yeah, I would say 36. I think.
Yeah,
It was
36.
36 people.
Yeah.
Who showed up there, and so for everybody they gave them like a number to start, because again it was like a
Mhm.
2-hour window, so we want to make sure enough. So we're like, for now we'll say like you get, I think it was like 3 avocados, 5 oranges, 5 lemons, something like that per person. So and people seem to be very happy with that, with what they got. So
That's good.
initially we were going by the pound, but we realized, and we had the scales out there and everything, but again, our first time, us learning, we'll go by the pound, but then we realized it'd be too difficult because the avocados over here and the oranges over there, and then it was just too, so we said, let's just go by how many pieces, get X amount of pieces, and we'll go from there.
That's fair.
You'll have to set up a stand at the farmer's market next time. And,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Exactly.